I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please, Mrs. Meltzer.
Thank you. Mrs. West?
Here.
Mr. Keys?
Here.
Mr. Pearl?
Here.
Mr. Cannon?
Here.
Mr. Aragona?
Here.
Mr. Gilliam?
Here.
Mrs. Meltzer here.
Can you read us the items that are added and deleted tonight, please?
Yes, there's 2 items deleted. Item number 1, request approval of new stockholder Food First Global Holding. That'll be on the next agenda, the 25th. And then also item 21, requesting closed session has been canceled. The add-ons are item 22, approval of appointment to senior staff secretary position from the clerk's office, approval of appointment to appraiser 1 position from the assessing department, discussion regarding the deferment of township payments for furloughed or unpaid federal government employees, bid award, Little Millar, pump station improvements, and the last one, Lowe's outside permit request from Gratiot.
So move to approve with one other change on item 19 to add a item to amend the non-represented employee pay and benefits policy, as well as to hire an administrative assistant for the trustee's office.
So will that be item 19A and B?
Correct. Support.
Roll call, please, for the amended agenda.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
No.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Welcome to your township board meeting this evening. If you have anything to say as an item comes before us, please come to the podium and clearly give us your name and address for the record. If there's something you'd like to discuss as not part of tonight's agenda, we have public comment cards to your left in the front of the room. Just fill one of those out, please, and we'll hear what you have to say at the end of the meeting. And with that, item 1 has been deleted. We'll start with item 2.
Mr. Cannon,
Oh, I'm sorry.
if I may?
Yes, I'm sorry. We have a special event in Clinton Township the next 2 days, and Treasurer Paul Gilliam is chairing that event. So, Mr. Gilliam?
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the recognition. The Clinton Township annual blood drive is and has consistently been one of the biggest blood drives in Southeast Michigan. It's one of the longest standing blood drives. It is an incredible community partnership. It's the Clinton Township with our partner businesses as sponsors, and our schools, our libraries, our township senior center as a sponsor location for the blood drive. This is going to take place over the next 2 days. There's various locations for the blood drive. All of the information can be found at redcrossblood.org, and then sponsor code Clinton Township. Given the fact that this is our 20th year of hosting the blood drive and coordinating it, our theme this year is with you, what can we give? And essentially what you're giving, the Red Cross tells us, for every pint that we collect, we are saving 3 lives. There's new technology. There's an app on your phone. You can sign up for the blood drive by just clicking a few buttons once the app is downloaded on the phone. And you can actually find out, this is, I think, one of the coolest things about this, you can actually find out where your blood goes. You can't find out who it's helping, but you can find out actually it went to McLaren or it went to Henry Ford, or I even had somebody tell me that their blood went down to the Cleveland Clinic. So I thought that was really, really cool. But really what we're doing is we're helping save lives. The other great thing and a little bit of incentive out there, if you're somehow afraid of blood or somewhat skittish, everybody who signs up for the blood drive to donate a pint is registered for our raffle. 3 iPads, 30 $50 Visa cards, 4 $50 Partridge Creek cards, $50 cards for many of our local restaurants, and then we've got $25 gift cards from local restaurants too. So probably some of the best odds you've ever had in any raffle that you've probably entered before. But it's an important event. I appreciate the opportunity to announce it once again and encourage people to help come out, support us, and donate a pint, help those in our community. Thank you.
Okay, good, thank you.
Mr. Kinnon, also,
Yes.
can I make an announcement of the Skate for Hungry?
Yes,
All right, really quick, it'll be quick. I host an annual canned food drive. It's at the Mount Clemens Ice Arena, February 15th. There'll be a half day of school, so the kids can participate. It starts at 1:30 and goes till 3:20. The only cost to participate in skating is that you bring non-perishable food item with you and donate, and those donations will go to the Macomb Food Program here in Clinton Township. Thank you.
thank you. With that, we'll start with item 2, special land use, a resale facility and coffee shop.
This commission has held public hearing on the proposal for special land use being a resale coffee shop in the B2 Community Business District on the subject property located west of Gratiot, north of Wendell, and has made review of the request. We have determined that the proposed use meets the conditions required for special land use approval. We hereby make recommendation for approval of the special land use to permit development of a resale shop, coffee shop in the B2 Community Business District, Java Junk, subject to donations only being collected during normal business hours. This action was approved by unanimous vote, and a copy of the notice of the January 10th, 2019 public hearing containing legal description and a sketch of location of the land in question is attached for information and file. This matter was petitioned by Ms. Mary Christopher Java Junk LLC, 25986 Briartown, Chesterfield, Michigan. We submit this proposal for consideration and would appreciate advisement of your determination. Sincerely, Catherine Cherry, Secretary, Clinton Township Planning Commission.
Thank you. And this is a resale shop with a coffee shop. It was approved by the board because it is flanked by similar uses. Are there any comments or questions of board members? Mr. Keys?
Oh, yeah, just a quick question. Since the petitioner is here, can you tell us a little bit about your business and your experience in the industry?
Well, I grew up with a restaurant, so a coffee shop is just a small operation. It's going to be actually a real, like a thrift store with a small coffee shop in it.
And are there any other examples of that, that type of collaboration that you've seen?
No,
No? Okay, so it's something unique?
just something different, yeah.
Okay.
In a thrift store mall with 5 other thrift stores. You got to stand out.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
If I may.
Mr. Aragona?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Supervisor. On the Planning Commission, we heard from you about your business. I thought it was a really cool idea, actually. You know, like you just said, there's nobody else with a coffee shop and a resale shop, so that's very cool. And I believe, if I may speak for you, you kind of committed to, if we have any issues around the building, if there's anything we can do to help clean up that area, because that was a little bit of a concern. The back, there's some graffiti. Obviously, that's a lot more on the landlord, but anything that you can do to make sure it's clean, looking nice, you've committed to, and I want to appreciate that. I want to appreciate you for that. So if you want to speak to that at all, please go ahead.
Well, yeah, there is a lot of graffiti back there. The landlord is in the process of getting estimates. As soon as the weather warms up a little bit, he's going to have the whole back of it painted.
Okay.
That's only like 5 stores. I don't know about the other sides. I'm getting a dumpster, and I'm
Yeah.
not going to have any junk laying around in the back.
Perfect.
It's just, I don't like it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Cannon.
Yeah.
Mr. Keys?
Yeah, just as a follow-up, do you plan on having any donation bins?
Donations?
Bins,
Yes.
well, no, bins that are in the parking lot where people can drop off clothing or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't, no, I don't think so. I don't want to put my hand in there and find a dirty diaper, or, I think people throw all kinds of stuff in those, so they kind of scare me. I mean, I think most of my stuff would be like buying storage lockers or getting donations during business hours, but no, I don't think I want to, no.
Yeah, and that was discussed a little bit at the Planning Commission. I think the general feel from the Planning Commission was that we're not really open to that. The owner she's expressed a business model. She wants people to come in, see what they have, bring things in, but to leave it outside, because I believe a lot of it isn't going to be clothes, it's going to be furniture, correct?
Yeah, there's no clothes. It's mostly
okay.
household
Yeah.
items. There'll be no, I mean, very little clothing if it's high-end and clean and nice, but very, very small section of clothes.
And you're actually going to be refurbishing a lot of that furniture, not just reselling it, but
Yes,
bringing it in.
I
and
do.
working
I
on it, right?
refurbished a ton of furniture. Well, I used to. Now I broke my leg, so I haven't done anything.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? Mr. Pearl?
Where do you expect to get the donations? We have a lot of resale shops up and down Gratiot.
I teamed up with a couple of pet rescues, I'm going to give them donations, and they're going to send people with donations to me. So it's actually going to work out very well. I mean, who doesn't like a pet?
Okay, well, I hope you will keep the exterior clean.
I guess I will. I see my neighbor with her bins overflowing because they never empty them, and I don't want anything to do with that. I want my place to be nice.
Thank you. Move that we approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
No.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3 on the agenda, special land use, a massage therapy in a B3 business district. It's at the Royal Plaza.
Mr. Cannon, before we begin on this item, there was the item 26, that if we could address that, or move that up to possibly after item 4. We make
Yes.
that 4A.
Okay.
Because the petitioner is here and doesn't need to be here for the whole meeting. So we'll need a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
We will address item 3 now.
Okay, sorry.
Hello.
This commission has held public hearing on the proposal for special land use, being the incorporation of a massage therapy business into an existing yoga studio in the B3 General Business District on the subject property located at the northwest corner of 14 Mile and Harper, and has made review for the request. We hereby make recommendation for approval of the special land use to permit development of a massage therapy business in the B3 district, Simple Movements at Royal Plaza. This action was approved by unanimous vote, and a copy of the notice of the January 10th, 2019 public hearing containing legal description and a sketch of location of the land in question is attached for information and file. This matter was petitioned by Ms. Lynn Fisher, Simple Movements LLC, 33431 Harper Avenue, Clinton Township, Michigan. We submit this proposal for consideration and would appreciate advisement of your determination. Sincerely, Catherine Cherry, Secretary for the Clinton Township Planning Commission.
Thank you. And the principal business still is going to be yoga and just incorporating the addition of massage. She's been there for how many years have you been there now?
Just 2 months.
2 months? Okay. So you're still planning yoga is going to be your main,
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
well, both of them.
okay. Comments or questions?
Move to approve.
Real quick question. If I remember correctly, you had some pretty good qualifications. Can you just let us know what those were real quick?
Yep, I have earned my doctorate in physical therapy in 2016. I've been a massage therapist for 20 years, and I've taught yoga for 18 now.
Doctorate. That's impressive. Okay, I will support the motion.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you.
Item 4, request approval to reserve the Prince Drury Park for the 13th Annual Community Kite Day.
Dear Clinton Township Board of Trustees, the planning, I'm sorry?
No,
After 4.
Not yet.
After 4.
After 4.
Yeah.
After 4.
That's right. The planning for the 13th Annual Community Kite Day is underway. This letter is to request placement on the next available board agenda for usage of the Prince Drury Park as the venue for the May 4th, 2019 from 12 to 3 p.m. If you have any questions or concern or need further information, please contact me. Warm regards, Jerry Brown, Kite Day Coordinator.
thank you. And any of us who know Jerry Brown know she does a fabulous job, not only with this event, but with helping children all throughout the community. There is already a reservation for both of the shelters. One has already been paid, so one would still have to be paid. And if they are in need of additional restrooms or dumpsters, they're to contact DPW, and they will let them know who they need to contact.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Key, supported by Mr. Pearl. Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 26, which has been moved up to 4A, is Lowe's outside permit.
It is that time of year again to request a permit for outside storage for seasonal commodity goods. We will be requesting outside storage in the same location as approved last year and request to have our permit valid from 2/28 of 19 through 10/31 of 19. Currently, your office has a picture of the storage locations from the past 2 years and last year's request. Thank you in advance for your consideration. Dan Karpinski, Store Manager for Lowe's.
We've had no problems at all. The building department is fine with the locations and the use. Are there any comments or questions? Mr. Keys?
I say it every time Lowe's comes in front of us, thank you for the work that you're doing in the parking lot. I think that that is something that can get really out of control if not kept up, and I think Lowe's kind of puts their best foot forward to make sure even the other businesses on that lot there are cleaned up. And I know that I personally have even stepped up my own efforts to make sure I'm putting in ordinance complaints or anything like that when I see that customers are leaving couches or anything like that by those collection centers. So I just want to thank you for the work that you guys are doing.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Cannon, if I can add, also I want to thank Lowe's and the work you've done, Dan, with the Clintondale Schools robotics team. You guys went in there, you saw the need for them to rebuild their room so that they could, place their tools, and you put in cabinets and so on. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you guys chose the robotics team to help out this year?
Well, it's a good cause. We always try to help local organizations, local schools. That's pretty much what our Heroes program is all about. They expressed a need to, they basically had a robotics room that they used, and then they transferred their old workshop into their actual work area, but they still needed a place to store all the stuff that they built due to theft. The room's not locked at all times. So we went in there, redid all the cabinets in there, new countertops. We painted one of the walls in the workshop so it didn't look outdated, and we donated, probably $1,000 worth of tools to help the kids grow in their robotics program. It was really good. And some of our employees were old classmates there, so they got to go back there and help their own school that they graduated from.
Nice.
Thank you so much for doing that and for being receptive of, that request. And again, the robotics team needs all the help they can get. Any donations out there, anybody that's listening that wants to really put their money towards a good cause, it's the Clintondale robotics team at the high school. They're just wonderful kids, very talented, and could really use the help.
We also re-shingled the pavilion bathroom at Normandy Park as well as a side
Yes.
project with that, so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oh, they do?
Mr. Pearl?
Yes, thank you for all the donations. I understand you donate the carts for our Goodfellows
You do.
group.
You do.
But what makes these donations possible, I want to let the residents know, is shopping there. And I have bought, in fact, many appliances there. People are super nice, easy in and out, nice appliances, good sales. I just bought one a few weeks ago, and I bought other appliances there. And, you have a good place there, and I hope the residents shop there and make it so that you can do these donations.
Well, thank you, appreciate that.
I'll move that we approve the request.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice night.
You too.
Item 5, request approval for Clinton Township Police Department to display 2 banners.
All right, let me get there. Okay, dear board members, Officer Kevin Daniels, on behalf of the Clinton Township Police Honor Guard, has requested to hang 2 banners advertising their annual spaghetti dinner fundraiser. If approved, the banner locations will be at Canal Road and the township offices, and the corner of Romeo Plank Road at the Clinton Macomb Public Library main branch. The library director has been notified. The spaghetti dinner is Tuesday, March 26, 2019, from 4 to 8 p.m. at the Mirage Banquet Hall. Thank you for your consideration of this request. Sincerely, Robert Cannon, Supervisor.
The Honor Guard has made us proud many times over in this community, going to Washington, representing us at civic events, at funerals, and they do this voluntarily. So
Move to approve.
thank you.
Support.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 6, approval of appointment to network analyst position.
Dear members of the board, the Information Technology Department is recommending the appointment of Mr. Vang Chang to the position of Network Analyst. This appointment constitutes a promotion to a higher classification within the department. Based on interviews, the department is confident that Mr. Chang is well qualified for the position. The starting salary will be $64,679. Upon Township Board approval, the appointment will be effective January 29th, 2019. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources Director.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions? The floor is open for a motion.
So moved to approve.
Thank you. Support. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 7, approval of appointment to inspector position, facilities and operations.
Dear members of the board, the Public Services Department is recommending the appointment of Mr. Harold Collins to the position of inspector. This appointment constitutes a lateral transfer within the department. Based on interviews and a skills test, the department is confident that Mr. Collins is qualified for the position. Mr. Collins' salary will be unchanged. Upon Township Board approval, the appointment will be effective January 29th, 2018. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources Director.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. And approval of the appointment to the Assistant Planning Director position.
Dear members of the board, after an extensive research process, the Planning Department is recommending the appointment of Mr. Matthew Wallace to the position of Assistant Planning Director. Based on the civil service testing and interviews, the department is confident that Mr. Thompson is well qualified and will be an asset to the township. As a condition of employment, Mr. Wallace is required to successfully complete a background investigation and a pre-employment medical examination, including drug screen. Mr. Wallace's starting salary will be $74,639, as specified in the AFSCME Local 1919.29 Supervisory Employees Collective Bargaining Agreement. Upon Township Board approval, his starting date will be January 29th, 2018. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources Director.
Thank you. Mr. Wallace is here this evening if anyone has any questions of him. Comes from Monroe.
Move to approve.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes, and
Thank you.
welcome aboard.
Item 9, Planning Commission Annual Report for 2018.
Do you have, is that something
I can say something if you'd like.
if you'd like to, yes.
Okay. Just briefly, this is actually something that is required under Public Act 33, the State Planning Act, that the Planning Commission prepare a report to the Township Board of all of the items that it's reviewed, the status of all of its planning activities, including text amendments, master plan work, that type of thing. So this is a yearly report that's required. It is being prepared by the Planning Department. As I do move forward, this plan or this report will get a little bit more in detail, start doing some comparisons from one year to the next. But this is required by statute. We want to make sure that you get the proper information, you know the work that the Planning Commission has done. And if you looked at it very quickly, just to add this, it was a very busy Planning Commission, a very busy year, a total of 48 cases. And so that's a fair amount of cases. This township is doing very well from a development standpoint, and we think that this upcoming year will be precisely the same. We're already kind of getting that spring push now where we're seeing a lot of site plans and rezonings and a lot of activity coming along. So we'll look forward to another year, and another year from now, we'll give you another good report.
Great. So the motion would be to receive and file.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. West, supported by Mr. Pearl. Roll call, please.
Mr. Kane.
I'm sorry.
Just a couple questions.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair to the Bruce, the department head. Thank you for putting this together, and obviously we've seen this last year as well, or a version of it. And what I really appreciate is in this one, I think I got a better clarification on the conditional rezonings versus the other categories. And that helped kind of put in perspective what the difference is between the two. So I encourage the public to go on and take a look at this. It's an easy read, so I appreciate that. The one thing I do want to ask, so is it the planning department that put this together? And then did the planning commission approve it, or can you go through that process with me?
That is correct, through the chair. The planning department compiled the statistics and compiled the report, but it's the duty of the planning commission to review it and approve it and forward it to the township board, and they did precisely that.
Okay, and then obviously in the end here, we talk about the updates to the master plan, and that's, I think, from discussions with you is kind of forefront in your mind in terms of the work that the department needs to accomplish.
Absolutely.
Can you give us an update on that and how that's going in terms of the master plan activities that you lay out here in the document?
I would love to, actually. Thank you for asking. I just received the 90% draft document from the consultant, so the plan is pretty much done. I did some review on it. We are still waiting on some key components, the future land use map, the existing land use map, but for the most part, we have a very viable document. One of the things that a master plan does is it involves the public, and I know it's been some time since the master plan process was initially started. So I was just actually speaking with the supervisor today, and I think I've talked to a couple other trustees about this, that I think it's important that before it comes to the township board, and that's the first formal step in approving the master plan, is I would like to at least hold one town hall type session, one visioning type session that I can facilitate, bring a copy of the future land use map, do a quick maybe PowerPoint presentation about the master plan and what's in it, and get some feedback from the public. I mean, the master plan should be involving the public. It's our master plan. It's not just the township boards or the planning commissions or the planning departments. It's the master plan of this community. So once we get a 100% document, I will be getting with the supervisor's office. We'll set up a date for that community meeting. At that point, then, once we hold that, the master plan will come to the trustees, to the township board. I'll make sure you get it well in advance. It has to go on to a meeting, at which time the township board has to forward it to the planning commission. So you'll have your chance to look at it. You can certainly give input, both formally at the meeting or certainly to the planning department as we move along. But you also are required to set a 63-day review period as part of your resolution or your motion. And that's time for all of the taxing jurisdictions that are part of Clinton Township, right? The county, the utilities, adjacent communities, all of that, to have a chance to review that master plan and make any comments. At that point, then it goes to the planning commission for a public hearing, and the planning commission, after that public hearing, when it sees fit, adopts that master plan formally.
Perfect, and that was just going to be my final question. So it is the planning commission that makes that final decision to adopt, not the board. We, like you say, we have input, and we have that public hearing that you'd like to organize, and I'm thrilled about that. I'm very excited with the direction this department is going, and to hear you be excited about including the public is exactly where we want to be. So I appreciate you putting this report together and the update on the master plan.
Further comments or questions?
So as I'm going through and scrolling through, I'm seeing that these are all of the projects that seem to have been approved by the Planning Commission. But it doesn't necessarily represent the sum total of the work of the Planning Commission. There are many projects that they've gone through that are still in the works, didn't necessarily receive approval. Is that fair? Or?
No, if I may, these are all of the cases that were on the planning commission
Okay.
agendas from January 1st to December 31st.
Okay, so it's
Every
everything.
single one.
It's
Yes.
every project. Okay.
is correct.
Great. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Mrs. West?
Thank you. Maybe I need to go back through and look again, but I don't see anything about putting together the medical marijuana.
Through the chair, in the back, at the end of it, there is a specific category about text amendment. And so that review was a review for a text amendment to the zoning
Okay.
ordinance. So I don't have it listed necessarily as a separate case, although it does have a case file number technically in the planning department. But any text amendment in the report that I put together, like the master plan, I like to keep zoning ordinance text amendments as a separate category. Sometimes the planning commission will review none in a year. Sometimes
Okay.
they'll have 3 or 4. So I like to kind of keep them separate, to keep them out of the mix of the general casework that they do, planning, site planning, special land use, so it's on the last page.
Okay.
That it is specifically referred to.
Because I do know that took a lot of hours.
Yes.
A lot of hours.
Yes, it
A lot of people who came and spoke to their pleasure or in displeasure of the whole.
There were four particular discussion meetings held at the Planning Commission level, January 11th, January 25th, February 22nd, and March 22nd.
But it was on every agenda from January through.
Yep.
So,
Each of
thank
those
you.
meetings. Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Keys?
Just one final note through the chair to the planning director. Please keep up with the description at the end where it says if it's approved subject to. That's not something I think we had in the last version. And to me, as a new trustee, it really helps. It kind of takes me back to where we were and exactly the motivations of the planning commission. So I appreciate that.
Okay. Is there a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Okay.
There was West
okay.
and Pearl.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's already been
I
done.
already did.
Roll call?
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 10 is request approval for electrical inspector to attend training.
Dear board members, the building department requests consideration and approval for Joe Price to attend a two-day class in Lansing about the 2017 National Electrical Code. There is enough money in my education and training budget to cover the cost. However, it was not on my list of approved classes due to the state of Michigan not notifying us of the pending code change until the code had already changed. The cost of the class with the room and travel expense will be under $650. Your consideration and approval of this request would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, Barry Miller, Building Department Superintendent.
This is absolutely necessary to keep our inspectors up to date with the codes.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Real quick, Mr. Cannon. Definitely will be supporting this. Just a quick question. We didn't get the traditional form that we get when someone has a training. It kind of lays out their travel and everything like that. Is that something we could get forwarded to us at a later date, or is that maybe we didn't do that for a specific reason? Do you guys know?
It's under budget. It's not even, it doesn't fall into that category of the $1,000 threshold. So it's underneath that. So, and because it was late notice, the change from the state occurred, so that could be.
So just to clarify then, and we only get those forms then if it's over $1,000.
999, I believe,
Perfect.
is the threshold.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, close enough.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 11 is Metro Act permit update.
Dear board members, the Charter Township of Clinton received plans from MCI Metro Access Transmission Services Corp., or MCI Metro, for the installation of underground utility conduit along Shield Drive. After initial review of the plans, we determined the original utility route map in the Metro Act permit showed an aerial fiber optic utility installation within the Shield Drive public road right-of-way. Anderson, Eckstein, and Westrick, Inc. contacted Verida Telecommunications Corporation, the company handling the permitting for this project. AEW informed the applicant that the existing Metro Act permit needed to be amended to clearly indicate that underground conduit is proposed along Shield Drive. MCI Metro also made a few other modifications to the utility routing at Elizabeth Road, Gratiot Avenue, 15 Mile Road, and 14 Mile Road. Attached map is marked up to show those changes. The attached revised Metro Act utility route map is consistent with the construction plans received by our office. We have no objections to those changes and the other revisions shown on the attached marked-up utility route map. Based on these conditions, we recommend the Clinton Township Board of Trustees accepts the updated utility route map and its inclusion with the current MCI Metro Permit Act, and please contact our office with any questions. Sincerely, Scott Chabot, sincerely, our Senior Project Engineer. Sorry.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions of board members?
Mr. Cannon, if I could, this is initiated through the clerk's office, and there was a lot of updating in terms of the processes, and just for clarification, this is not a new permit, it's just an addition or clarification of an existing one.
Thank you. Mr. Keys?
Ms. Meltzer had answered my question. Thank you.
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. And item 12, distribution of 2017 Gratiot Avenue DDA funds.
Do you want me to summarize?
Let me read it in, because I think it's really chock full of good information.
Okay. Well,
And then you can definitely add
Yep.
to it.
Okay.
Normally I would, but this is really important.
She like-
Board of Trustees, as you are no doubt aware, Clinton Township was recently informed that the Gratiot Avenue Downtown Development Authority's tax increment financing plan expired back on May 26, 2017. As the treasurer, I want to keep you informed on the financial consequences of this unfortunate circumstance. You may know downtown development authorities generate revenue for their corridor improvement and economic development efforts by establishing a district of taxable properties. At the time of creation, a base year of taxable value is created. The DDA then captured any new tax growth derived from new development or increased valuation. After extensive research and working with the Finance Department, Township Attorney Jack Dolan, and the Michigan Department of Treasury, we now have a clearer picture of the financial implication of this unfortunate oversight. Clear to all parties was that any revenue captured for the 2018 tax year would need to be refunded back to the various taxing authorities. This was accomplished internally in my office by eliminating the DDA line item from the distribution formula. Regarding the 2017 DDA tax funds captured, I developed support for the argument based upon state law. The taxable status of property is determined on December 31st of the preceding year, and so in this case, 2017 DDA revenue could be retained. The Michigan Department of Treasury ruled essentially the 2017 taxes do not become a lien until the tax bills are issued on July 1st and December 1st. And since the DDA did not exist on those dates, the entirety of the 2017 DDA funds must be redistributed. Efforts are underway to now redistribute those funds to the taxing authorities. As the 2017 and 18 DDA funds have or are being distributed, the Clinton Township General Fund must cover DDA expenses. Lastly, and probably most importantly, the expiration of the tax increment financing plan means that once reestablished, the base year will be reset, severely reducing the amount of revenue that the DDA will be able to generate for corridor improvement and economic development efforts. While efforts are underway to reestablish the tax increment financing plan, the board will need to evaluate what general fund resources should be provided to continue the corridor improvement efforts for the next several years, or until new development or taxable value growth occurs within the district to restore the revenue stream. This is most unfortunate because DDA revenue was just starting to pick back up from the last economic collapse of property values. Respectfully submitted, Paul Gilliam, Treasurer.
I'm going to ask our planning director to give us an update as to what the status is of reestablishing the DDA.
Certainly. Thank you, sir. Been working real closely with Jack's office, with the attorney's office. They've worked real hard at getting us an updated TIF plan, a lot of language, including language that's relevant to the statutes of today. And in essence, at this point, the TIF plan is really in its final draft form. So the DDA is set to approve that TIF plan. What we're waiting on now, since 2019 is going to be the new base year, I think you heard the clerk mention from the treasurer's report that the baseline has to start over. It will be 2019. It's prudent to wait until after the assessor holds March Board of Reviews. And so that way the taxable numbers are set for the rest of the year. The base will then be set at that point, and the TIF plan can be reviewed and approved by DDA. It will then be forwarded to the Township Board, who has to make the final approval of that TIF plan, and then we will hit the ground running. I'm confident that with some of the new developments that we're working on with developers, there are some new developments that are going to be forthcoming in 2019 and 2020 in the DDA corridor, so that should help get them up past their base year baseline this year. And as well, I've come up with a new program for the DDA that once they do start generating funds, can help themselves generate funds. So it's a program where they encourage businesses within the Downtown Development Authority area to invest themselves, and thereby raising the taxable values of properties and generating more funds for themselves, so we can get them back up to speed again. So we'll be working very closely with the DDA to basically reinvent and start moving forward.
Thank you. Comments, Mr. Gilliam?
Yep. So, yes, and thank you for the report. I very much, I thought it was important, first of all, to explain to the public and to the board what had to happen with the existing funds and, how this affects us financially going forward, it basically wiped out all the funding that we have for the DDA. We didn't find out about it until this past year. It took us a while to sort of deal with Treasury and all of that. But as we were going through, the question is, how did we not know this? How did we not know that this expired? And so the planning director was the staff person for the DDA, I believe. And so moving forward, whose responsibility is it going to be to make sure that we reapply on time so we don't have anything like this happen again? And are there any procedural changes that we think need to be implemented to make sure that that's in place?
Well, it is the planning director through the chair. It is the planning director's duty to ensure, through working with the DDA, that their TIF plan remain soluble, that it remain relevant and up to date. I'm not sure at this point, how to do that yet, but we'll be working with the DDA to come up with something, from a standpoint of, maybe 10 years from now, obviously, once the plan is approved, that we start doing the research. But ultimately, it's the planning department who needs to keep an eye on that ticking clock and make sure that the process gets started of maybe amending that. And there may be, Mr. Gilhelm, times in the near future where the DDA starts generating more revenues and they come up with a new project. And it might require the DDA to amend the plan. And that happens quite often. A lot of TIFs get amended because DDAs or TIFAs or LDFAs come up with a new project that they want to do. And at that point, then you can also potentially extend the life of the plan. So it's really kind of an ongoing thing. It's just part of being the planning director. It's part of managing TIFs and DDAs. I guess it's really inherent in somebody like myself as a planning director. That it's just what you do. It's part of being, a director at that scale.
When we apply, are we going to be applying for another 15 years?
That is correct. That is the number that we're using at this point, yes.
Okay, but it can be amended along the way as things or circumstances are required?
That is correct.
Okay.
Mr. Gannon, to that point, if I may, we can certainly now, with the new electronic content management system, Laserfish, that we've implemented, create a business process that will trigger the time frame when that is due. So we could have Stephanie in our department set that up for you, and how far out you would want to go, maybe a year out to get things ready, or 2 years, or however.
Okay, Dave, that's awesome. I know we're meeting through the chair later on this week, and then we'll be getting some training in my department on the Laserfish, so we can definitely work with the clerk's office and make sure that becomes a core part of our department.
Good. Mr. Pearl?
Yep. Mr. Dillon, Miller Canfield set this up originally. Was there a law that said they had to do just a 15-year?
It didn't specify 15 years, but there is a law that's a part of the old law and the new law that's just come into existence regarding DDAs and TIFs, tax increment financing, that establishes that you must have an end date to the plan. So, we could pick a shorter time or a longer time, but in either case, you have to have an end date.
So we
And there have been
could
some
say
significant
25
changes
years.
under the new law. That's true.
We don't have to make 15, so we should make a decision what's best. If we want to make it longer, we can still amend it.
Well, right, but amending the plan is essentially following most of the steps that you did in implementing it, and it's a rather tedious process.
But is there advantage to extending it to like a 25-year plan?
If I can, I think that it's kind of a double-edged sword. With the new legislation, the new act that Jack was referring to, I guess there's more accountability from a standpoint of DDAs. And I think, and Jack and I have had a number of discussions about this, the plan really needs to be grounded, and you need to be realistic. A lot of plans you can see from other communities in the past, they leave it open and gray, and, well, maybe we can fit a project in and it fits under this category or not. I think with this legislation, we need to be more specific, and the plan needs to be more means to an end. And so I think leaving it open 25 years or whatever, I think that's that's not really in tune with the act and with the requirements of the current DDA Act. So I think, and we've had a lot of discussion at the DDA level, and I think Mr. Gilhelm said the same thing. The DDA at 15 years was really at a charge, right? They had done some project, they were getting money again, and so I think that's really kind of a good number given the sequence of events of the DDA as a history. And so could we do 25? Yes, but I think it's not realistic to say we're going to know what the DDA is going to do 25 years from now. So I think we just have to be cognizant of that.
So if I could expand a little bit on that, Mr. Pearl?
Thank you.
With your indulgence. The reason why we put this on the agenda is to say, okay, these dollars that we captured from new growth that had come into that district wasn't going to the individual taxing authorities. We were capturing it, setting it aside for these economic development things. So when we set up a DDA, the debate always at the time is we're pulling new revenue from those other taxing authorities. So we have to, in a sense, I think, be accountable to them to say, we're pulling this revenue, but we're pulling it for a specific purpose. We're pulling it for a purpose that's going to not benefit just that specific area, but the entire community at large. And it serves all of us because the rising tide lifts all the boats. And so, but we have to build some accountability in there too, to say, we're taking this money for a reason. We're not just taking it and setting it aside and letting them do whatever they want.
So when you say it resets, who wants to answer? What does that mean in regards to dollars? When it's restarted
Yes.
and everything's reset, at what levels?
Basically, what it means is that their base assessment is this 2019 year's assessment. So
So that would increase in some cases unless the tax tribunal reduced it.
But what the function of a TIF, of a DDA, is you set that base assessment. And from that point on, any additional tax revenue beyond that base assessment is
It's
what
just the
they
growth.
capture. So
You're only getting the growth?
realistically, it's not, you're getting the growth, right? So the next taxing year, the next taxes that come in that are above that base, that's what they capture, and so on, and so on, and so on as the year.
And so we refunded $88,000 for 17 alone. So.
Thank you.
Mr. Keys?
Yeah, obviously reading this, it's disappointing, but I'm excited that we're moving forward. My question, though, and to go to Mr. Pearl's point, I would not be interested in looking at a 20 or 25-year. I almost want to mimic the master plan. Obviously, I'd like to see that even this DDA plan brought to this board, whether it's a receive and file, an acknowledgement. Is there any part in the process that this board plays, or is it simply DDA?
No,
Through the chair.
Through the chair. There's a public hearing required at the township board level, and you do approve it ultimately. So the board will review it, and, they've reviewed it a number of times. We'll be discussing it again at their meeting this month. But ultimately, once the final document is here, they will approve, they will, by resolution, forward it to the township board. Township board has to set a public hearing. They have to hold that public hearing, and then at some point after that, approve the plan.
Well, with that in mind, I appreciate then what Ms. Meltzer is saying, and I really hope that you take her up on that, because I think that we can, yes, look at the planning director, former planning director, we can look at the DDA, but this board also has a responsibility. And, for me as a new trustee, I'm upset with myself that I didn't say, hey, when was this public hearing? Or, why wasn't I on top of that? So I appreciate the work that you're doing. I'm very disappointed in the result that we have here, but I am excited, and I do believe that we're moving in a direction that will prevent this from happening again. And I would just encourage you, 15 years, if that's the norm, and if that's what you think is realistic, then that's fine. But I would like to see a 5 or a 10-year just to really help make sure that this DDA is planning for the future, and we're giving them the resources and the tools to do that. And I do think that the Laserfiche and the agenda management system will help trigger those type of reminders for not just you, not just for the DDA, but for this board. Thank you.
Mr. Aragona?
Yeah. Bruce, I got two questions for you. One, we started talking a little bit about the timeline, whether it's 1525 or a 510. Whatever we set the timeline for, can we extend it beforehand?
Yes.
Okay.
The answer is yes.
So we can keep that 2000, we can keep the 2019 baseline as long as we act in enough time? Okay. Second question is, and I had this question for you before when we talked, and I forgot to ask you, Is there, I mean, $88,000 for 2017, that's obviously a lot of money. Is there a silver lining in, we've talked about Headley Amendment, Prop A, and, the treasurer, the supervisor, they've talked about how, that kind of is stunting some of our revenue here in the township, but it's stunting it from a property tax value because those property taxes probably should be rising faster than they actually are in a good economy. So with Headley and Prop A, did we actually not lose out on as much as we could? And are those property values likely to continue because they're actually technically, I would say, depressed at this point? Or lower than they should be, I should actually phrase?
I don't think the TIF, the DDA is going to be harmed by any increases in taxes, right? I mean, I think that, as Mr. Wilhelm said in his letter, they were really starting to generate revenue. So I don't think that the taxable values in the DDA were really depressed anymore. They went from a very minimal amount 1 year, 2 years ago, to 88,000 the next year. And so I think that's, diligence on behalf of your assessor.
Right.
Properly assessing things, but the market, the development community continues to just go.
Right.
So I think that you'll see, it'll probably generate some revenue pretty quick. Will it be a lot? No. I think, kind of part of the answer to that is doing a 5-year plan. I don't think that's enough time. It's not enough time for them to generate revenues to take on the next big project, if you will. 10 years, maybe, but in my experience, I think 15 is a good number. But, I hate to say it, but it really all depends. It depends on how the economies go. It depends on the amount of investment we get. Certainly part of the deal is the Planning and Community Development Department's job is to encourage development and talk to developers and commercial real estate people and make things happen in these corridors. There's going to be a lot of things that we do with the DDA that over the last few years really haven't been done as far as promoting themselves. We'll be working with the DDA over the next year or so to come up with some ways of doing that, maybe update the website, give them more of a face out there. I mean, I know they do a lot of things at Gratiot Cruise, and I don't have a ton of experience with them, as well, Mr. Aragonis. So it's a bit of a learning experience for me as well. But I think you'll see with the plans that we have, they'll start generating some revenue, and we'll be able to start doing some positive things, for sure.
Thank you.
Mr. Pearl?
Yeah, just couple of last questions. So any new business that comes in, we take their 100% of their taxes?
Beyond the base assessment of the property. So if there's a vacant piece of property,
So when it resets, when it's sold, and it resets, what level is it then? The previous or the new reset?
so if there's a vacant piece of property on Gratiot today, and today's the day that we have decided is the DDA's start, somebody comes in and develops Taco Bell, all of the value beyond that ground land value that is then created is captured by TIF, by the DDA.
Okay, then the last thing, Mr. Gilham, is you mentioned 88,000. I see it in here. I'm not happy about that, of course. But if I read it correctly, about 30,000 of it is our own money.
That's correct.
So it's not as bad as a bad story.
Yeah.
It's not 88, it's that, because 30 of it's ours.
But it does go back to, like I said, the various taxing authorities. And so, as
But
these
it goes
dollars are
back to
captured, we have to
fire,
distribute.
police, and township operating,
Yeah.
too.
These are the dollars that have not been distributed as of yet. But there's, all the other taxing authorities
Yeah, it's
as well.
not good, but it's
Right.
not as bad as the.
But certainly, yes, a portion of it is through our respective millages, which is less than 1 mil for the general operations of the township, but then also police and fire and, those services. So
Thank you.
Mr. Kane.
Mr. Keys?
I appreciate my colleagues because this is a new thing for me. I'm excited that we're moving in this direction. The one thing I do want to clarify, though, to me, this is not a positive, and in no way, shape, or form. I think this is the board dropping the ball, and we need to be able to pick that back up and move in this clear direction. And again, I have the confidence that we're doing that, but I'm not going to mince words here. We dropped the ball on this. Thank you.
Further comments?
Does the public have any comments?
Does the community have anything they'd like to say? The floor is open for a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 13 is recommendation of payment system processor change.
Okay.
This I'll let you do.
So, all right, so this, I have a number of slides here, but I'm going to try to skip through as many of them. I wanted to be as detailed as I could, but I'm going to spend a little bit more time on some of them rather than others, specifically those that say, one, that speak to what do we currently do now? What precipitated looking at making a change, the process that we developed for making that change, who we reviewed, and why we arrived at the decision that we made. I have to give some credit to my office, particularly my Deputy Treasurer, Carolyn Folk, who's in the audience, as well as the payment vendor, Point and Pay, who is here to speak to any questions that Carolyn and I can't field. And so with that, let me start going through this. And I'm so glad, by the way, that IT briefed me on how to get this thing set up. But I did it early just because I wanted to make sure I could do it. So the recommendation is to switch to Point and Pay as our payment systems vendor and adjust ordinance number. And instead of this 20209, put 20905. I thought I changed it everywhere, but I missed this slide. What do we have now? Currently, anybody who needs to make a payment to the township, whether it's tax, whether it's water bill, whether it's a permit fee, any of those types of things, they have the option of coming to the counter, providing cash or check. We currently do not and are not set up to accept credit card payments here actually at the township. That's one of the changes we'll be making. They can mail a check in once they receive their bill. They can pay online in one of two ways. They can pay by e-check for free, which is a free option, or they can do it over, or they can pay by credit card. Choosing to pay by credit card incurs a 2.65% service fee. That is a fee that is assessed to the actual customer. So pay by credit card, you're choosing to do that, you're choosing to pay a convenience fee of either 2.65% or I think 2.25 at this point. Or people can pay by phone. We have a lot of phone payments. They call it IVR in the industry. So they call one number if they want to take advantage of the free option of paying with their checking account and plugging in their routing number and their account number, or they can pay by credit card and again incur the service fee. Two different vendors here that we have to use to set this system up and to allow people to make the choice that they want. We get a lot of negative feedback from residents on the current system that we have. It's not as user-friendly as it needs to be. It lacks integration with BSNA, and this is one of the key points for everything. The process that we use, pretty much all of our departments are set up on BSNA. It's a software program that tracks tax payments, it tracks utility payments, it tracks building department, those types of efforts. And so what that means is that anytime we have to upload a file to our vendors, they then plug that information in. So when someone goes on, they say, oh, this is the amount that I owe, plug in that amount, agree with it, and then plug in all their information. Then every time somebody makes a payment, we then have to download all those payments. Then we have to manually upload that into the BSNA software system. That's a number of administrative steps, and what it does is it leaves a lot of time and a lot of steps for errors to take place. We don't have payment fails or dishonored checks, but when we do, it's not out of the industry standards, but when a payment fails, it's an unpleasant situation for everybody because by ordinance, we charge a $25 fee, and it's not mobile friendly. So the problem continued. We have a $25 fee for every time a payment fails. Payments fail for a number of reasons. NSF is non-sufficient funds. Most payment fails people enter the wrong data information when they're entering their account number or their routing number. It happens, and people, we're in a society where people now are used to calling up and everybody's saying, I need you to waive that fee. That fee is here because of an ordinance. That ordinance says we must charge it. There are a number of steps, that administrative steps, and some fees associated from the bank every time we have to deal with a payment fail. The township is charged some bank fees, 14 steps and a half hour of staff time every time there's a payment fail. So we developed a process that allowed us to, one, take advantage of the fact that technology is changing in this industry very, very fast. And we wanted to bring vendors in, figure out, first of all, what was possible, what services could we offer, and then bring the departments in that are going to be affected by it, that have to help us make it work. And that allowed us to, I think, be more exploratory than an RFP process. But in the end, we were able to take advantage of RFP pricing. The goals: provide a customer with the best experience possible. We need to maintain people's financial information safely. We cannot fail on that. We cannot deal with hacks. We need to keep up with industry standards. We need to control cost. Right now, we have a reliable, cost-effective option. We maintain a free option for the customer, but that does come with some cost to the township. It needs to be reliable. Can we find some administrative efficiencies? We needed somebody who understood municipal systems and could provide us the necessary support. So the current system is Comerica plus those different vendors. We looked at Chase Bank. They came in with a solution similar to what we have now, probably some cost savings. Then we looked at two that were integrated with BS&A, Invoice Cloud, Point and Pay. Point and Pay is the, as you recall, the recommendation. This is the current setup of the system, current bank for relevant accounts. We currently use Comerica. This was set up. It was extremely innovative when we started it, but now it's time for a change. Chase Connect, again, more of what we have now. Invoice Cloud. Invoice Cloud is integrated with BS&A. It allowed us and afforded us a lot of the things that we're getting with the vendor that we have now. The difference is there's a marketing model based upon switching people to paperless billing, getting them to sign up for auto payment, and then we don't have to mail them a bill. We get cost savings on that. But that includes a marketing plan with a number of emails from the township to our customers. We figured that might be a little bit of departure from people expect from the township. Point and Pay, integrated with our current payment systems. We find the administrative efficiencies that we look for. Don't have to do the uploads, the downloads, the uploads, the downloads, all of that. They have Michigan municipal experience. They're in the end, they were very cost competitive. We were able to get RFP pricing from RFPs that went through from neighboring communities. We believe it's going to provide the customer a better experience, and we're going to provide better services for our departments. So these are the figures for 2017, the number of water payments that were e-check payments. This is the cost that the township's going to be picking up. 53,000 water payments came in electronically by online or over the phone. 7,300 tax payments came in that way. Based upon that current model, this is what we pay. Under Chase, had we gone that option, this is what we would have paid. Under Invoice Cloud, they offered us two different billing scenarios, and then current Point and Pay, we pay 40 cents for every web payment, every IVR payment. Credit card fees to the customer, they're either going to pay 2.8% as a convenience fee or a minimum of $1.50. Paperless billing fee. So every time we get somebody switched over to paperless billing, we're going to save money by not having to mail out that bill. But because they're helping us do that, we're going to pay 10 cents for that. Bank bill pays 10 cents, rejected payments. We only pay, in this case, for non-sufficient funds payment fails, not people typing their information in wrong fails. So that's a significant change, and there's no fixed fees to this. So as you can see, right in the ballpark, quite frankly, even some cost savings from what we're paying now, and we're giving people a better experience. Recommendation is to switch to point and pay. Implementation timeline, April for water billing, April for credit card payments in office, and July for tax. Rich can expand on that. Recommendation 2, we'll get to that. That's actually the next agenda item. And with that, I need to close down, and Carolyn or Rich will hook up some of the more specifics.
So I'm Richard Malone from Point Bay. Thank you for
Good
having me.
afternoon.
And this is one of the things, while they're getting set up, I thought it was imperative that Point and Pay be here. This is a big initiative for the township. We used a very complete process, but at the same time, this proves that we have a company that is going to provide the necessary services and support that we need to get this implemented correctly. While they're getting it set up,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman, do you want to entertain?
Yes.
Okay.
Skillham, we discussed this briefly before the meeting. We have to notify all the residents that use the monthly service to pay their water bill, to
Yes.
switch over to the new system.
Well, so the people that are currently signed up for auto pay, which means that our bank is authorized to go to their bank, pull the funds to pay for their water bill whenever that bill becomes due. And they set it up for whatever date they want to set it up for. We have a number of people signed up for that. Yes, those folks are going to have to make a proactive move to make the switch to continue in that program. We don't want to switch people automatically because basically we're giving
You can't.
somebody else to go and do
Right,
that
you
and
can't do that.
access their financial information. They need to provide that authorization.
So how are we going to do that? We're going to mail a letter out?
We'll have a series of letters and emails to say you're currently on auto pay. We've switched vendors. We think we're going to provide you a better experience, but we need you to do.
Okay, so we'll
Steps
put it on
1,
the
2, and 3.
website and we'll do everything. Will they go to our current website, the bill part, to sign up again?
They can't sign up on the website
I'm
How would they
sorry.
sign up
for auto pay.
to
I can help
auto pay?
out.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, I think-
That's going to be Rich.
So they're going to be able to enroll, and they're going to always have the option of a quick payment. But Point and Pay is going to help with the marketing to get them to enroll, like our competitor Invoice Cloud would have, and create a dashboard. And from that dashboard, they're going to be able to make mobile payments. They're going to be able to store e-check payments, multiple credit cards, debit cards. So that's going to be something that we're going to encourage them to enroll and create an account. But please remember, even if they don't enroll, create an account and go paperless, they're always going to have the option, which I don't think they have today, to go into BSNA online bill lookup, click Pay Now. It automatically would take them to Point and Pay's payment page. They wouldn't have to type in a bill amount, an account number, none of that, because of the integration we have in place with BSNA software. That data will populate for them. They'll go hit Pay Now. It takes them to our payments page, which we go through an annual PCI compliance. The township is not storing credit cards, processing credit cards. That's our business.
Well, right now, it takes you to one, and you put in your account number, and then it populates the dollar amount, correct?
Yep.
If you're paying it one time, Mr. Gillian?
Yes, but that's because we've sent that to them,
Right.
and then that information pops up. But that only happens on the e-check currently. It does not happen when you're paying by credit card. You have to know your account number.
Right.
You have to know how much you want to pay.
Right, it's very
It's disjointed.
difficult when you're paying by credit card because
Or by bank account.
you're in another's whole website. And then you have to tell them everything, they know nothing.
Exactly.
Right, and it's
That's going to
it's a little
change this.
harder.
Rather
I
than the
agree with what
uploads,
you're doing.
downloads, yep.
Can you look at one suggestion, though? When you mail the letter out to people, people might have a tendency not to open up the envelope because they might figure it's automatically deducted.
Yep.
It could sit there, and then they end up paying late. So can you put a note on the envelope or something saying or urgent or change in payment or something?
Yeah.
Is there something we
I
can
mean,
notify them?
I think it's a good suggestion. We're going to look at it. We're going to definitely take that suggestion into account as to
People
how
might
we,
just toss it aside and, because they know it's being
Mr. Pearl, I can
withdrawn.
tell you what a lot of your neighboring communities have done that have made the
Thank you.
transition. They have included inserts, which is what you're suggesting. They'll put a notice on the website, and they also put a notice at the township hall. So those are multiple ways of saying, hey, we've upgraded our system.
Well, I'm saying in addition on the envelope, to say
Okay.
something like new plan or something, just to flag it on the outside of the envelope.
yeah, I don't see why we couldn't do that, but we'll work with the water department to, we're implementing there first because those are smaller bills that come out monthly, right? If we're going to do a transition, we want it on the small amount rather than on the bigger tax amount.
I know
So,
those
yep.
people that forget to pay will call you, but I'm just trying to save you
Yep.
a lot of phone calls.
Yep.
So if I could just complete the process that I was explaining with BSNA, then I'll move on to my informative slides I have. And I only have a few. But once the payment's processed with BSNA, we then, that's part of the integration, tell BSNA the payment's paid. They update your database in real time, meaning that the treasurer's office, the clerk's office, the water department doesn't have to manually update any of this data anymore. So as I was saying that, Paul asked me to tell you a little bit about Point and Pay. We're a nationwide payment processing solution since 1999, based in Troy, Michigan. We're owned by North American Bank Card, which I'll touch on in just a moment. More than 3,000 clients in all 50 states. More importantly, here in Michigan, we have over 500 clients. Provides proven, fully integrated, secure systems with PCI Level 1 certification. For those of you that don't know credit card business, PCI is Payment Card Industry Standards. So annually, we have to go through an on-site audit to make sure that we're up to the PCI, the Payment Card Industry Standards. And that's quite extensive. It usually takes about a month. We are the preferred partner of BSNA Software, specializing in payment processing for townships, cities, villages, ambulances, AccuMed's a big bill payment provider, courts, law enforcement. We do all of those here in Michigan. This is a little bit about our parent company. About 7 years ago, North American Bank Card. If you've everyone here has driven down I-75, seen Oakland Mall on the left. If you take the time to look over to the right, that's North American Bank Card, one of 3 big white buildings there on 14 Mile and Stevenson. I'm not going to read verbatim here, but one of the nice things that we do provide as a card provider is consolidated settlement, meaning we deliver all 4 major credit cards, debit cards, and e-checks in a one lump same payment, which makes reconciliation easy for the treasurer and all the other departments.
In finance.
So, and we do,
In finance.
and we're a Michigan-based company, is why I put this slide in here, and we do employ over 2,000 people here in Michigan. Point and Pay, as I said, has over 500 clients in Michigan. I put some of the bigger cities here so you can see. I also, but the fact is, anywhere from the city of Detroit to the city of Keego Harbor, where I live, you don't have to be a big township or a big city. We service all of them. I just wanted to give you a few references, and I threw a few townships up here that are local for your reference. Paul talked a little bit about an RFP. The fourth quarter of last year, we were fortunate enough to win a RFP with the city of Warren, which is a current client, but they went to RFP because these new products and services that I'm telling you about, auto pay, recurring paperless billing, they wanted those, and their purchasing department required them to go to bid. City of Rochester Hills, we received that award letter in December, and that is the RFP that the township was able to piggyback on the RFP pricing because of the collaborative they belong to. We did extend that pricing to other communities in Michigan. And I am going this Thursday to the Next Steps meeting for another RFP that was awarded for the city of Sterling Heights. I think the most important thing here is the pricing was consistent with all 3 of these clients, and it's the pricing that I extended to Clinton Township, yes.
Can I have a question on pricing?
Yep.
I didn't look at every detail, but I mean, I read over it. Did you give an explanation? Is there a reduction for debit cards?
For debit cards, on a convenience fee pricing, debit cards and credit cards are used the same, are priced the same.
Well, I use North American Bank Card. I used to
Okay.
do 100,000 a month, which isn't a lot maybe, for my company. And there was a reduction for debit cards.
And
For the
and
consumer.
that's
for-
because of the
for us.
Durbin Act, the pricing for debit cards, and I can explain that. In a convenience fee pricing, credit cards and debit cards are treated the same. What you are doing in your personal business is called absorb pricing. So if the township ever has something that they want to get invoiced on, and they're absorbing fees is what you're doing, there is a difference in debit and credit, but not on a convenience fee model. When the credit card payer is paying a convenience fee, the debit cards are processed as the credit card. And that's why we only take debit cards backed by Visa and MasterCard.
But it costs North American Bank Card less to process a debit
A
card.
debit card, it may, but in a.
I mean, there
I'm
was
gonna give-
quite a big difference
Yeah.
between a credit card and a debit card.
So Ken, the majority of our payments that come in are actually going to wind up paying the $1.50 fee because it's a water bill. So the convenience fee used to be 2.65% or $2.25 minimum. The minimum now goes to $1.50, but the convenience fee went up to 2.8. But we haven't made a distinction between debit and credit. So if they're choosing to pay with a card, they're choosing to pay that convenience fee.
So is the convenience fee lower than what would have been charged and an average between the two cards? Is that what we're saying?
The convenience fee is going to be the same for an American Express and that debit card, meaning that Point and Pay is charging the credit card user 2.8%. So on a $1,000 tax bill, you're talking about $28 if they choose to use a credit or debit card. If they choose to use e-check, there's no charge. And on that same web payments page, it's going to give them the option, credit or debit, it says, or e-check. If they choose to use credit or debit, it is 2.8%. Doesn't matter if it's American Express signature card or a Michigan State Credit Union debit card. They're going to be able to use the same card. And to touch on what you were touching on, in a absorbed setting, that American Express would have been 3.25% invoice.
Yeah,
But,
well, with 100,000 a month, I was trying to convince people to use debit cards.
oh, okay.
Because we were absorbing the
Yes, sir.
cost.
And I just wanted to answer your question. That's all I'm doing.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay.
But one of the goals was maintain a free option, both online and over the phone. But also, if they're using a credit card, understand that just like now, there's a convenience fee.
And that's going to be the same convenience fee whether they pay over the IVR, which is an interactive voice response system, which is how they pay over the phone. A web payment, they pay over the web through the BSNA lookup, or if they walk in and pay at the counter. It's going to be the same.
No, it sounds like a good system. Thank you.
One last thing that I wanted to touch on, Paul asked me to explain the implementation process. We do all of the work, the technical work in the background with BSNA. It takes 4 to 6 weeks to implement a new client.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Keys?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the first thing I want to cover is the paperless option. I'm a little confused on why the user is being charged the 10-cent fee, and maybe I'm not thinking
I
about
can
it correctly.
explain it.
Please.
So the average cost of printing and mailing a bill is anywhere from $1 to $1.50 for a township. The 10-cent fee is being a fee that will be charged to the township, meaning that there's actual savings. So instead of spending $1 to print that bill, they're paying Point and Pay 10 cents. So there's 90% savings on it if it costs $1. Paul can probably tell you.
There's also savings in someone's not mailing in a check, and then someone's, in Kim's office is sorting the mail, and someone in my office is opening the envelope and then typing and then, doing that and then taking it to the bank and all of those types of things.
That's part of
So-
his
Yep,
cost. in other words.
exactly. So he's absorbing some cost for administering that system and saving us a ton of time at the same time.
Thank
And the
you.
paperless options really for your utility billing
Right.
is, I'm sure Paul knows, tax bills have to be mailed out
Yes,
in Michigan. by
that's a
law.
statutory
Yep.
thing, so it only saves money really in water. So,
And then the other thing, and I just want to make sure I have this correct, because whenever we're talking technology and we haven't gone through our RFP process, even though I am excited to see that we took advantage of 3 RFPs that were just done in 2018, so that's something that makes me comfortable moving forward. But can you talk to me a little bit in terms of the benefit of it being BS&A integrated? The way I'm thinking about it is that if the treasurer's office closes at the end of the night, and someone goes on and pays their bill, the balance could be different based on when that data is imported with the current system. This system is all integrated, so it's
Real time.
instant.
It's real time.
Is that
It's
the way-
updated in real time, yes.
absolutely, yes.
So currently, if I went on to paid my water bill, maybe it's $90, let's just say, and I go ahead and pay that, but then, it's $98 the next day. I could be missing out on that $8 payment.
We're not recording that payment until someone comes into the office, downloads the file from the payment processor, and then uploads it then into our system.
You're saving
That's
them
happening
time.
today.
Right.
So what's happening with this system is it's real time. Once the payment is made, I'm not sure how much time. I'm sure there's some
Yeah,
lag, but
I could get technical here, but I'm not that technical either, but we do what's called a parameter passing postback, meaning that we're communicating, and it's all in real time, and the data's provided to the township in real time. So what's owed on that bill is what's going to produce on that screen for them.
Okay. And then just my last point is I'm excited to see you here today. We've purchased technology over the past 2 years where the vendors were not even invited to the board meeting or invited to present. I know that you've been here, HR has had their companies here in the past to come through. And I think that as a board, we should really look at that as even an internal policy, that whenever we are going to purchase a large amount of technology or even any contract, that the vendor is present at the meeting, willing to engage with both our questions, but then if the public has a question about it, they're willing to engage. So I just appreciate you presenting your own presentation and being available for our questions.
Yep. Well, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
That's it, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cannon. This is exciting. Thank you, Paul, for the work you've put into this, the time and the due diligence, and I'm glad you've taken your time on this to do that due diligence. I know these types of implementations take a long time, and you're right, I agree with you. We had Laserfiche when we implemented our electronic content management system. They came and spoke at length on more than one occasion to make sure that the board was fully understanding what the process is, what the product was, and that really lends itself to a total board buy-in. And I think that makes a big difference in terms of, our decision to approve is by having you here. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with me earlier as well. I also want to comment on the integration, the dynamic integration that you have with BS&A. Our existing system, it's very important to have that type of integration. The same thing happened with the Laserfiche, where we wanted that integration with other products that we're buying and we're building on. So it isn't just the final cost, maybe you spend a little bit more, but in the end, you are savings in terms of employee costs and then real costs down the road. So you can't always just look at the bottom line of the cost, of the initial cost. You have to look at what that cost is going to be spread out over the years. So I'm really excited about that. I can't tell you how excited we are, and that what I mean by that is the customers that have been coming to the counter from the clerk's office for the last 6 years wanting to pay by credit card or debit card for their passports and not being able to do that. So this is going to be a great benefit, a great convenience for them, and we're really excited to have it. So thanks to Paul for implementing this on behalf of the
Thank
clerk's
you.
office.
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yeah, I've always asked this question before. How does the security work that you're having access to our system? What stops your people from accidentally changing something?
Well, I can tell you that we have extensive security. I can't get into the details of it right now, but we're not actually accessing your system, we're accessing BSNA and then updating them, if that makes sense to you. BSNA is your database.
Right.
We're communicating with them. We're not.
So I think Rich, what you're suggesting here is not only would you have to have somebody doing something wrong at your operation,
Yep.
they would have to have some collusion with
Yeah.
somebody at BSNA in order to then,
You input things to BSNA all the time,
correct.
Yep.
okay? And they're actually doing it too. But
Right.
But if there was an error on their part and they changed any of our figures erroneously, what is that, how does it stop them from
I can tell
that
you this,
happening
Mr. Pearl,
accidentally?
when we submit RFPs and they ask for our security guidelines, it is over 100 pages, the security guidelines that North American Bank Card, our parent company that processes $17 billion a year on the retail end. I don't know if you've been over there, but they have a whole lower level, secured servers. We have servers and secured sites off-site. We go through above and beyond payment card industry standards for security.
So you're receiving the information electronically
Yep.
of all the accounts,
And we're updating
and you're updating that.
with BSNA. And you're getting that data from BSNA.
But you can't affect the actual, what we inputted.
Right. And we can also put account blocks on to say it goes one way. The money comes in, it doesn't come out unless we specifically authorize it as well. So that's the other sort of check.
Mary's got something.
Think of it like your Outlook calendar. People can look at your calendar and you give them permission, but they can't change your calendar. The same thing. They're looking at our BSNA data, and when someone makes the payment, they're letting us know they made the payment, but they can't go in and say, your water bill's $100 instead of $55. That can only be put in by us. They are not allowed, they have like read-only type technology.
Right, and I'm familiar with that, that's what we do, but how do they technically submit the information to BSNA? Who makes the actual change on the account then? BSNA?
BSNA.
Okay.
Yes. So
us.
And they're doing that
No.
today.
When a BSNA, does, because we are using their system, so our data is sent to them in the first place.
Yes.
Then, when the payment comes in, BSNA receives that information from Point and Pay, makes the change for us.
Okay, thank you. Just want to clear that
All
up.
right. And then, if I could, I just want to turn things over, because part of this is administrative savings, and so the water department is most affected. So just if I could, Mary, I figured you might want to comment on what we're able to do now that we're not having these uploads, downloads, those types of things, and how this actually benefits their department.
Yeah, Paul brought this to us, and we looked at it. We sat down with our assistant office manager and our office manager and went through this. There are things that we currently would like to do. Kim has her Laserfish program that we would like to get all of our documents in. This will free us up to be able to do some of that. It kind of lets us use technologies and get us back up to speed and be able to be better customer service people. We have the way, we can look at people's accounts more. So the inactivities or the high consumptions, we'll be able to hopefully catch some of this and be able to offer better service, as well as administrative stuff, like when a technician goes out, we can add better notes so that they know better what's going on at the house. It's going to free us up to be able to, kind of relay back and forth with the customer. So we're looking really forward to this.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Keys?
Just last question. I think you may have already covered this, but I don't remember the answer. For the auto pay option, will they have the option to do that right from the website, or will they still have to come into the township and fill out a form?
They're going to be able to enroll in auto pay using the dashboard they would create, enrolling with Point and Pay, and they're going to be able to do an e-check on auto pay, a debit or credit card. They can stop and start that at any time, once they've enrolled.
And then I heard Visa, MasterCard. I didn't hear my favorite one, though. PayPal.
PayPal?
Yeah, not an option yet?
PayPal's actually a competitor
Oh,
of
okay.
ours. But, yep, and they're not integrated with BS.
Didn't get a
Not in. Well, thank you for the work done.
Members of the community?
Bob Hogan, 36755 Bar Street, Clinton Township. This could be huge. How many people are on auto pay for the water department?
Do you know the answer?
Come on, AutoPay.
I actually don't have that answer right here.
I think it's about 2,000 from what I recall from Angela.
Only
somewhere in that.
2,000 out of all the,
Yep.
You have to come into the
I'm
township.
expecting a huge number, more than 2,000. I'm
Currently.
on auto pay.
Currently, in order to do auto pay, you had to come in or contact the water department and, specifically tell them. There was no online option for you to just sign up for it.
True, and for
So-
many others, there's still no online option because they're not online.
So on this, you'll have that opportunity to do an online option just to sign up for auto pay.
Many of the residents, even though it might only be 2,000, will not have that option because they don't have online services at their house. What is that option now? What can they do other than get online, which they don't have?
So if they don't go online, can they do IVR? They can't
Can
set
they
up
walk in the
IVR?
doors, what it comes down to, and sign something in
Rich?
your office?
Of course.
Yeah.
So I can answer that. So if you don't have online services, quote unquote, a computer or home internet, if you have a mobile device, a phone or a tablet,
Oh, yeah.
you're going to be able to pay because our solution for auto pay is mobile dynamic.
But I think what Bob was asking.
But Mr. Hogan,
getting
you're
at it.
more
Just
than
do
welcome
one
to
thing
come
more.
in and pay anytime.
Yeah.
You can come in and pay at any time, cash and check currently. This will allow you also to pay at our counters with a credit card.
I can do that. I could bring in small denominations and screw up the Treasury Department, or the Treasurer's office. But,
And other residents too, Mr. Hogan, not just.
right, but I'm getting back to what Mr. Gilliam said. In the old days, we either went to the water department or his office, before it was his office, and signed something and had it processed at that point.
Yes.
Is that still the option?
Yes.
Yes, I would say yes, because our staff would likely be able to put you, to go on the dashboard, sign you up for it, and then you would have to come in and make that change as well, I would think. Rich?
Those are back office management features. They could walk in, they could call in, and you could enroll them and sign them up. Absolutely.
Okay.
Those are privileges management.
So the answer is yes.
privileges.
The answer to that was yes. You said this was going to be a huge reduction in hours that your staff is currently working. Is there going to be any staffing changes at the reduction?
Well, so again, this mostly affects the water department. And in the water department, there were significant staff reductions during the economic crisis, where then they had to cobble together all of these different ways of addressing all of these different things, so they were doing more with less. Now they're going to be able to do more things for the customers versus all these administrative tasks that take up a lot of time.
And to that point, if I can, Mr. Cannon, there's a lot in terms of what we're doing with integration of documents. And so, as Mary had said, she's going to be able to have staff that frees up to help with scanning documents, getting them into our electronic content management system. So it's all, we're becoming fully integrated with technology, utilizing that technology, and not only in the Treasury Department, the clerk's office, and other areas as well. And we're eliminating those silos, those things that exist right now from department to department that create duplication and effort. So when you say, an employee in the water department and there's an employee in the clerk's office, they're doing the same thing, that's that's not efficient, and that costs us more money. So why not free up that system so that it's only done one time, but yet everybody has access to that information, including the public, which makes it very transparent and very efficient. So it's overall, it's a great move in the right direction in terms of utilizing technology.
I'm sure it is, but I want to make it as painless as possible to the automatic pay people, which I'm included in.
Yes.
Do you have any plans on going on the Comcast channel or whatever it is and doing any explanation on that? About the transition. This is, actually, this is huge.
Yeah, so during the transition, we're still exploring all of the different things we're doing to get the word out. So we're still putting that plan together. But the first step is now here at the board. And yes, I'm happy to do a cable show to talk about the changes that we're implementing and why.
That will be done?
Yes, I will do it.
Mr.
You have
Cannon,
my commitment to go on cable and talk about this.
Super.
All right.
Mr. Cannon, if I can just say, our church actually has a similar thing, and literally I got a letter in the mail just yesterday. I already brought it in to kind of to say exactly this. But the thing is, you don't want to say today, hey, we're changing in April. We need to get closer to that and then do the shows, do the letters, so that people have, so they don't go in and make a change today to have it not go into effect, because we're not changing till April or May when we can work with point and pay. So we have talked about this. There are definitely different ways as far as mailing out, as well as the cable shows, the internet, our website and so forth.
Okay, and the last thing was, I'm trying to get confirmation. The residents that are currently on auto pay can go into the treasurer's office, you tell us the date, and sign a document or whatever it is saying you're authorized to go into my bank account or my checking account and pull out the $90.
They wouldn't
monthly.
come to the treasurer's office, they would go to the water department, because the water department can sign up for auto pay. You can't sign up for auto pay and avoid mailings for tax. It would be a violation of state law. So yes, you can do that, but you have to go to the water department.
Which is in this building.
Correct.
Actually, Paul, I think we can talk about that because you have a water department staff person.
That's
So when
right.
he comes, so when they come to your counter to say, can I do this? I think it might be, well, we'll figure it out.
That's right. One of my cashiers is split between water and my department. So yes, we will work that out as to what office to go to. But those are all part of the implementation plans.
The biggest thing is wherever you go, whether it's my office or his, we don't want to be sending you back and forth. We want to make sure you get it efficiently.
Oh, we like all the people working here and wouldn't mind seeing everybody, but you're right, we wouldn't want to keep going back and forth. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Jennifer Morrow, 19351 Edward Court. The one suggestion,
Pull that mic down, Jennifer. Yeah.
the one suggestion that I had is use the township text alert to let everybody know. And my other question was, would the money be drafted from your account real time? Like the information is being updated real time?
There's always a lag between the processor talking to your bank and then talking to BSNA and then talking to our bank. So, but Rich behind you might be able to shed more light on that. This is why we hire payment processors, because
But
it's
no, an e-check actually doesn't fund for a few days. So if you went online, set up ACH from your checking account, that money is not pulled out in real time, even though your data and the bill's paid in real time. The e-check money usually comes out, it takes a day or two for it to be pulled out.
But you get credit for having that payment having been made
Yeah.
right away, but it's going to take some time. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Mrs. West, did you have a question?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I did, but most of them
Paul?
have been answered.
Mr. Gilliam, you want to go back to number 13 and make a motion?
Well, I'm putting it out there, so I'm happy for somebody else to make the motion.
I make a motion to receive the recommendation to the RFP for point and pay, and beginning immediately, and then the process starts in April, right?
I think to allow the treasurer's office to enter into bringing point and pay as the township's payment processor, and based upon the pricing that was presented.
Okay, support.
Roll call, please.
Jack, right? Okay.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, you had a discussion on dishonored checks to item 14.
Yes, so that is item number 14. And so, again, biggest discomfort for the public and for our offices is when that payment, somebody typed in the information wrong, the account number, transposed the number, even though it has to be entered twice, even though that we've eliminated their ability to cut and paste. When they've typed it in wrong the first time, they physically have to go and enter it a second time. But in the case that the error was flowed through, there are a lot of administrative steps, and currently by township ordinance, ordinance number 209.05, there's a $25 fee. And as a result of that, people call. We're in an environment where people are used to calling the credit card company or calling the, the DTE or whatever and saying, hey, you charged me this late fee and, or this dishonored check fee, and I don't believe I'm responsible for that and I shouldn't have to pay it. And that fee is per ordinance. I do not have the ability to waive it. The option that was presented to waive that fee was to ask somebody to send a letter to the township or to the treasurer's office, and then a committee meeting will be scheduled with the supervisor, the clerk, and the treasurer, and we would decide to waive it based upon kind of a false pretense, because the pretense is somehow it happened with it being the processor's fault. And what we found is that it's not the processor's fault. It's based upon the information that was entered. It was user error for the most part, and as a result of that, and the administrative steps that follow, a $25 fee. So the options that we have are, one, I don't think that's workable. I think there's too much of a lag time between a committee meeting, whether the fee was waived or not. In the meantime, we've had to communicate the tax data to the county treasurer's office. We're talking about a 52-day process here that was created with the first rewrite or creation of a waiver policy. So our options are keep that $25 fee in place, see how it goes with the new payment vendor, or give the treasurer and the water department the authority to waive it if it's paid within, 7 days with certified funds or cash at the counter. Even that is an administrative headache, and I would advocate for no change to this. Let's see if we can implement this and reduce payment fails based upon that error versus making a change.
Can make that a motion.
So I would make the motion that we keep the, in fact, quite frankly, we don't even need to make a motion because there's been no change to it.
Okay, receive and file.
Motion to receive and file.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 15, adoption of ordinance 448, and this is so that we can keep the penal fines associated in Clinton Township.
This was introduced at the last meeting, and this is, today we're here to adopt.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
And item 16 is adoption of Township Ordinance 449.
Again, this was introduced at the last board meeting. We would be adopting it, and this is going to amend the alcoholic beverage sales, which means that it's going to list, it lists all the different types of alcoholic sales that's at the level of the state. So whatever that state has created, like, for instance, brew pubs were not necessarily part of what we practiced 10 years ago. Now it is. So anytime that there's a state change, this will adopt or mirror that change as well. Is that correct?
Yes, basically, we originally
dealt almost exclusively with Class C licenses, and that was really the nomenclature. Now, as was indicated, there's so many changes, they're happening fast, that we want to have a much more broader contextual reference for the ordinance, and that's what it's done. It's really applying alcoholic, it uses terminology, alcoholic beverage sales
Bless you.
as licensed currently and in the future by the state.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 17 is something that the clerk's office has to do once a year, introduction of Township Ordinance 450, codification.
These are ordinances that have been codified throughout the year, and this is our annual codification in its entirety.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. And item 18, Clinton Township Ethics Policy. Update.
Oops. Didn't get printed. Hang on one second. I'm going to have to read it from my phone. I wasn't able to print it. Oh, goodness, I have my glasses. Okay. Dear Honorable Board members, at the Special Ways and Means meeting to consider ethics issues on Friday, February 1st, 2019, it was voted that I obtain a copy and circulate the ethics ordinance for the City of Birmingham for further consideration by board members involving the implementation by the township of an ethics policy. Accordingly, attached is a copy of the City of Birmingham's ethics policy. As can be seen, this ordinance sets forth general intentions, spells out instances of conflict of interest, and sets forth disclosure requirements. In Section 2-325, a three-person Board of Ethics acts in several ways. It first hears complaints and issues findings, which are then sent to the City Commission. Additionally, it considers questions of interpretation. In Section 2-326, an affidavit and disclosure statement is required to be made following election and appointment for employment or any change in facts in a previously filed affidavit. Should you have any questions following a review of this policy, please feel free to contact me. We remain very truly yours, York Dolan and Tomlinson, John Dolan, attorney. And I would like to just add, if I can, Mr. Cannon, so we did meet and discuss the combined ethics policy that both, I think, Mr. Pearl, Mr. Cannon, I'm not, did you also submit that, Mr. Argona? That
No.
initial? So then your policies, and then the other, trustee West, trustee Keys, and Treasurer Gilliam had submitted. So both Mr. Jack Dolan, our attorney, and Bill Smith, our HR director, integrated those documents. We did discuss those at the Budget Ways and Means meeting, and each Mr. Dolan and Mr. Smith delineated the trustees and everybody's comments in terms of what they liked, what they didn't like about that integration. And then in addition to that meeting, Mr. Gilliam introduced another ethics policy by the City of Birmingham. So now we're at that point now where I have yet to actually look at that policy. So we're looking at that, and then we'll bring that back at a March 12th meeting, I think was the first date that we could all meet. So that will be the second review of this analysis, and from that, we may or may not have a decision, but we certainly will have a report, if not a decision.
Mr. Pearl?
You know, I read the minutes of the meeting, and thank you, everybody that met. I'd like to make a recommendation that based on comments made by everybody, that this policy be effective for only elected and appointed officials, and that Mr. Smith is directed to negotiate an ethics policy with the unions at the appropriate time. But to speed things up, I think it's appropriate that this ethics ordinance or policy be adopted for only elected and appointed officials at this point. I'd like to make that a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll support it.
Supported by Mr. Aragona. Discussion? Mr. Keys?
I'm very confused. We're voting to make a policy that does not yet exist, only,
Well, it seems like if you try to include the employees that are unionized, that's, Mr. Smith has indicated it's not possible at this time without negotiations. I asked the county how they did it, and they said that their charter allowed them to do it with combining everybody. So to get this off, to speed this up, let's just focus on doing,
There's many ways to speed this. I'm sorry.
absolutely.
let's just redefine what this is going to apply to at this point.
Bottom line is, it was recommended by our staff that we decide which way we want to go, because that's the direction that the ordinance is going to lean. And I quite frankly agree, because most of our contracts already have ethics built into it. And that's there to be seen.
So,
Mr. West?
Cannon?
Oh,
May
Mrs.
I,
West,
please?
then you're second.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you noticed in the minutes from the meeting last week, I did say to Mr. Dolan that I felt this was very much for elected, et cetera. I do truly believe that something needs to be in there that goes to the employees, like the training, that they should all go through the training. They should all sign off on whatever. And then the rest of it is a lot of it is covered in their policy and procedures or their negotiated contracts. But I do feel that there's still parts of it that need to go to the employees. So I don't know if that was missed,
Well,
but,
you mean parts plural, or you mean just the training?
no, parts of it. We need to look at it. Is there something that's not in the current negotiation of contracts and/or our current policies and procedures for employees and add that to it?
Okay.
Mr. Dolan?
Mr. Cannon and members of the board, when we sat down at the Budget Ways and Means special meeting, I iterated and Mr. Smith reiterated that there is what's called the Public Employment Relations Act in Michigan, and it obligates, when you're dealing with bargaining unit employees, that you negotiate on wages and conditions of employment to impasse before you could even ever unilaterally implement something. First of all, we have tremendous employees who I think, are universally almost very ethical and very willing to cooperate. But the fact is we have quite a number of unions within the township, and really each union has to be approached, and we'd have to reach agreement with them on the policy. And I don't think, if I'm correct, what's being suggested is to eliminate applying ethics to the unions and to the employees. It's just to sever off, at this point, the appointed officials and the elected officials so that we can get a policy in place at an earlier date.
Correct.
Because with the number of unions we have and with the steps that you'll have to go through to get their consent and approval, if you delay until the last bargaining unit has agreed upon an ethics policy, a considerable period of time could go by before we have one in place.
The motion said to direct Mr. Smith to start negotiation once the policy is put together.
He does that every time he negotiates. Further discussion?
I think Mr. Gallahan was first.
yeah, so, we came forward with a set of criteria that we thought comprised the elements of an ethics policy. It should contain this, and this, and this. People who draft ordinances and policies, HR, attorneys, go to work. They miraculously a draft of the Michigan Townships Association generic ethics policy/ordinance pops up. And so the motion at the board meeting was combine the two, wherever there's a point of difference, note it, let's vote on it. Then it came back to the board and it was stated, no, we don't like that. HR, go back to the drawing board. They did, they came up with another policy. We argued at that time that that policy should go to a work group specifically designed for doing this. No, just send it to Budget Ways and Means. Well, Budget Ways and Means is kind of busy. We've got a lot of different things going on in Budget Ways and Means, since everything that we feel like needs some work and there's not a specific committee for it, it goes to Budget Ways and Means. So let's do a separate work group. Nope, can't do that. It's got to go to Budget Ways and Means. We go into Budget Ways and Means. We have some deliberations on the third draft of the policy, if you will. And three members, the three voting members, myself, the clerk, and the supervisor, couldn't come to an agreement. I don't know that we're going to come to an agreement. There are things that I think are essential elements that people are just as fundamentally opposed to. And so then we bring it back to a report to the board, and the answer is, oh, well, let's take out the workforce since we need to negotiate that anyways, and that might move it along. I don't think it's going to.
That was a great summary.
I don't think it's going to.
That was a good summary.
I don't think it's going to move it along.
That's fine. You're certainly entitled to
I
that
think
thought.
we need to, basically sort of, and just a clarification on the point of the Birmingham, I think it's a nice policy. It's a clean policy. The people who drafted it did a very good job of it, but I do think modifications are necessary to put in place some of the criteria that we originally proposed. I'm voting no on eliminating the employees in an effort to move it along because I don't see that it does.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Keys?
Thank you. I'll also be voting no on this. I think I agree that was a great explanation, and this process started in July of last year. This is something that this board needs to take the initiative and do the work for. I'm ready to vote. I'm ready to let the people know what type of policy I want. We laid out the 8 points that we wanted in our letter, and we're asking to vote on it. And so I think the public is smart enough to figure out when something's being delayed. And I think that we as a board need to step up and work together in a public meeting to go through the points that we submitted. If there are points in this MTA generic policy that you feel are very important that need to be included, let's vote on those too. But we didn't go to the website and just blast the generic document onto the board agenda. We sat down and worked hard on it. I've had discussions with Mr. Dolan. I've been able to review the Budget Ways and Means minutes. I think that it's time that we stop stalling and we stop trying to kick the can on this and move forward.
I agree.
Thank you.
Pearl?
We're talking two different things.
Exactly.
I'm saying that from reading the minutes, we were told by our attorney just now and Mr. Smith and our HR director that it cannot apply to the unionized employees unless it's negotiated. So I'm saying, fine, after we put our policy together, then we're directing Mr. Smith to negotiate with the unions so that we're not delaying it. I'm just trying to define one point. I'm not on the committee, but I'd like to get going on this.
Okay.
We,
Mrs. Meltzer?
oh, just that, well, I was just kind of getting frustrated. So I know there's a back and forth on here, and that's okay. I guess I disagree with you, Mr. Keys, in your frustration about the timetable of this. When you say we spent time drafting this, that wasn't this entire board. That was you and a couple other board members. It's important that everybody has an opportunity to be at the table and discuss it. And it's a policy. It's going to impact this township for years to come. So I don't think it's something we have to rush through. Yes, this definitely definitely is in response to what has been going on in the township. So we definitely, everybody on this board wants to see a policy in place. But I think we have to be careful in terms of rushing through on something. I think it's important to recognize the reality, and the reality is that this, to the employees, is a negotiated option. So it isn't up to us to say, okay, this is how it's got to be. We may run into a grievance. We've been notified that that would be the case. So as opposed to going through that process and backtracking, let's think this through. Let's rely on our department heads that have the knowledge and the expertise, and listen to them and be advised by them. I don't think that's a bad idea, and I will be supporting this motion. I think it's a good step forward. I don't think it's a step backward. I don't think it's going to delay. I think it'll move things along. So I just want to clarify that not all of us think the same, and that's not a bad thing, because all of us here represent different mindsets and different people. And I can tell you, whenever anybody has ever raised their hand and said, I know my question is a stupid question, I always think it isn't, because there's probably 10 people in the audience that are thinking the same thing as you. So there's no stupid question. It's just trying to get that information out there and have a good understanding before we make decisions.
So I want to, just if I could, Mr. Cannon, I want to get some clarification on exactly what we're voting on today. Are we voting on a motion that says it just covers elected officials, or are we voting on a motion that says it covers everybody, but that we're not going to apply it until it's negotiated, which is what's in state law anyways?
No. The motion was that, if I can clarify?
Yes.
The motion was that whatever policy is adapted to the board, that it applies to elected and appointed officials, and that policy is then part of negotiation by Mr. Smith with the unions. So the policy would be applied to elected and appointed officials immediately upon adoption, and then we would be trying to implement with the unions through negotiations, the same policy.
So, all right, so the same policy is part of the negotiation process, which it already is anyways. So why do we need a motion to that effect? If we pass a policy that affects everybody, yet we can't implement it until it's actually negotiated, why do we need a motion to say that?
Because legally, we can't affect the employees without negotiation.
Can I help on this?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman?
By all means.
I think what he's saying, what we're talking about is not passing two policies. What we're really talking about is passing a policy that will have effect immediately with respect to the appointed officials and the elected officials who are not subject to the Public Employment Relations Act. And then, as that's now effective immediately, take that same document, approach the employees within the township who are affected by that act, and attempt to execute an implementation of that same policy with each of those different bargaining units, which is obviously a process. That way, the policy is in effect applying toward the elected and appointed officials. We're not, in other words, delaying the implementation of the policy until it's subject to being approved by everybody. And here's where I think you may be having some difficulty, Mr. Gilliam. We don't know until we actually complete the process of dealing with the unions. We don't know what's coming out at the other end, so to speak, what the result of that will be. So, we're hopeful that they will all accept and we'll have one uniform policy, but you can't be assured of that. So the idea is, rather than slowing down the implementation of the ethics policy as it would apply to yourself as an elected official, someone on the planning commission, let's get that all in place so that there has to be adherence to that policy by elected officials and appointed officials. Meanwhile, we're going through the process of trying to get that same policy adopted by all of the employees, by whom by law, there's another process that's involved.
So I asked to be recognized to clarify what we were voting on, and I appreciate that clarification. But it seems to me we're spinning around in a circle. That easily could be done by throwing a line in there to say this policy is effective on the bargaining groups according to parallel rules upon the date that it's negotiated and implemented. We do not need to take any action on that tonight
But what happens?
to pull that out, because we can do it by one line in the policy.
So what happens if bargaining unit A says, we don't like this provision, we're not going to approve it, but we'll approve it with everything except for that provision? You've conditioned your approval solely upon see, the point is this.
But it automatically goes into effect and is implemented on those people that it can be implemented on. So I don't see what the difference, we're spinning around in a circle.
Not really, because what's being said is, we want to get immediate implementation on those who we can. On the others, we want to try to get that policy in place, but there's a process. So there's no absolute guarantee that that same policy will be what they're going to agree to. We're hopeful that it is.
Where the county said that the charter required that all employees be treated the same as officials.
And my belief is that we need a strong ethics policy that applies to everybody fairly, and that needs to be the clear, well-stated goal of this board, whether it requires us to go to the negotiating table for it or not. We need to implement it and apply the same rules to everybody.
Thank you.
Bottom line.
Mrs. West?
Thank you. I'm listening to everybody. I listened to Jack, and he said that the ethics policy is, for elected officials, et cetera, is starts, et cetera. We don't have one yet. We don't have an ethics policy. We have a draft. We have something that you're going to be discussing on March 12th. To me, this is a moot point. I mean, we cannot do anything with this ethics policy until we have somewhat of a draft in front of us, and I think we're putting the cart way before the horse.
Let's limit it
Thank
before
you.
we have it.
Yeah, I mean, now we're
Excuse me.
limiting it before we have
I'm
it.
out of order.
No, I mean, seriously. So I think that this needs to go by the wayside until and then, Mr. Pearl, make your motion then. But right now, we don't have anything. So how are we supposed to adhere to something
been
as an elected,
It's been recommended,
but we don't
what
have
I
it?
read from the minutes by our attorney and our HR director, that we make a decision now which direction we're going and how. This is still going to be asked to be implemented through negotiations for all employees, whatever policy comes up. We're not stopping anything. We're just-
Keys?
Yeah, my last comments on this is, you're right, maybe it's quicker, it's a quicker political decision. It basically says that here at the board, we don't have to make these tough decisions that we're being asked to make by the public. This is something we need to move forward with. Ms. Meltzer, I appreciate everything you went through. You said that we didn't work on this all together. It was the three of us that got together. And you know why? It's because us four can't get together in a closed setting and talk business of the township. And that's why we asked for the policy to be discussed in this room. You then said that you think everyone should have an equal voice, yet the meeting's being discussed in an internal meeting where we can't participate. We have to read the minutes of Mr. Dolan saying our own opinions. We're equally elected to this board. We should not have to work with a contract employee to get our point across to this board or to the public. We should be able to be at the table, just like you said, all of us, the public, the board members. We need to move forward with this in an open setting and stop with business as usual. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
No.
Mr. Keys?
No.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
No.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item,
Mr. Cannon?
Wait, the motion that we have something that's not even on the policy that we have yet. That makes sense. An amendment to something we don't even have. sorry.
Mr. Pearl read the minutes. He told you why he was doing what he was doing.
No, I understand.
totally
I
agree.
understand it. I'm not.
And you can
I'm not-
talk all night, that we're not going to agree.
Well,
So
Mr. Keenan?
No, that item is done.
I have a motion on the same item.
Point of information, the report was given, it's basically listed as a receive and file, but we didn't receive and file it. What we did is amended it, and so now it's still on the floor, and we're still discussing it, even though we may have adopted a minor motion that's
stupid.
subservient to the overall issue.
Well, that is not a minor motion. It was recommended that if we were going to get through this policy, keep in mind, we were requested by you at the last meeting we had to take a look at another community's policy because it was a good one. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
There were several meetings that we had this item on the agenda for Ways and Means, and people had to leave early. So we didn't get to
I'm
this.
sure, and I'm sure that community has unions too, yet their policy applies to everybody.
We've already voted on that item.
So, yeah, but now the issue's still on the floor, and I think Mr. Keys is looking to be recognized on the issue.
Mr. Cannon, if I may.
Mrs. Meltzer?
We have addressed this. It doesn't, the title is Clinton Township Ethics Policy. I explained at the beginning that this was a summary that discussed what we those on the Budget Ways and Means Special Committee meeting, which consisted of you, Mr. Cannon, the Treasurer Gilliam, and myself, what we did. We didn't do anything else. So we're really, other than what I just gave the summary of. So explain to you the summary, it gave you the summary of what we performed at the Budget Ways and Means meeting. Mr. Pearl interjected based on the information that was in the minutes. And so everything that was on this agenda item has been accomplished. And so if you want to discuss something else, that's not germane to this necessarily. It could be another point. But in my opinion, this is already a completed topic.
It is.
It is going back March 12th, just a minute. We'll discuss the Birmingham policy, as well as the other policies that we're looking at, and then we can bring that report back, which should be narrowed down, pared down enough, so that we can discuss the pros and cons at the board level, which is an open forum for everybody to hear. So at this point, we're not prepared. This has to go back to Budget Ways and Means to discuss the Birmingham policy.
And it'll be easier now that we have direction from the board about who's going to be affected by the policy immediately. Mr. Dolan?
At this point in time, if you want to expand the discussion on this issue, as it's headed now, it's my opinion that you could expand the discussion and entertain another motion if it's topical to the ethics policy. If you feel that somehow that alone isn't sufficient, then you could still entertain, it's still proper to bring a motion to expand the agenda item to include that, which that motion could also be made. I mean, I don't think we want to keep this discussion completely narrow and just move it along yet, because, I think as the topic is named in the agenda, it's sufficiently broad enough for further discussion. And I think we do all want to see, I think without any doubt, just so the public's clear, I can say from speaking to every single board member and to staff members that the township is interested in coming forth with a thorough and well-put-together ethics policy expeditiously.
Correct. And one thing that you and Mr. Smith keep saying, because you've talked to all the board members at one time or another, we're not going to agree. It's not going to be a unanimous board. We'll try, but there's a lot of differences of opinion. There's a big spectrum when you're looking at ethics policies. There's thousands that you can take a look at, and no two will be the same. Mr. Keys?
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Dolan, for giving us that information. This was attempted at the last meeting when I tried to make a second motion to an agenda item. I'm disturbed by this board's unwillingness
Okay, are you making a motion?
Yeah, I'm presenting, yeah. Unwillingness to keep the conversation going. So at this point, I'll make a motion that we post, according to the Open Meetings Act, the special Budget Ways and Means meeting, and make it an open meeting so the public and the trustees can attend.
Support.
Roll call? I disagree with that, by the way.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
No.
Mr. Cannon?
No.
Mr. Argano?
No.
Mrs. Meltzer, no. Motion fails.
Thank you. Moving on to item 19, 19A, Mr. Aragona.
All right, if I may.
Yes.
I put on the agenda here for our administrative position that we have in the trustee's office. We've been without it for about 2 months now. We did have 79 applicants last year. We brought that down to 8 that we interviewed, and then we brought that 8 down to 4. We offered it to one of those applicants. She unfortunately turned it down. There was a second that actually called us up and said that she found other employment. So it was down to 2. I personally didn't feel comfortable with either of those 2. I went back to the rest of the 8, so the other 4, and I thought there was an absolutely outstanding applicant that we discussed in our previous meeting at 6. I talked to her last week. I also have some very good news. I think we can save the township some money. If you remember, when we were kind of putting together some information to go out and get some applications for this position, I voted no on the salary. I thought it was a bit too high. I did discuss with this applicant, and she is willing to come in. She's willing to accept about $10,000 less a year. So I think this is a great way forward. At the meeting, it seemed like we were kind of 2-2 at this point, so I'm willing to put it before the board and see if you guys are willing to accept this applicant. So,
We need to know who it is and what the salary is.
correct.
Okay.
We do. So my first motion is to amend the non-represented employee pay and benefit policy to incorporate the position of administrative assistant to the trustee with an April 1st, 2018 starting salary of $53,000 and a 3-year salary of $61,000. And we are going to an administrative assistant instead of an administrative aide. We will leave the other position open for now. Maybe in 3 years, there will be a promotion to that position, but it at least allows us options, so we just keep that open, so.
I'll support that.
So wait,
We're adding that third.
so we're changing and not hiring somebody for the administrative aid, but we're hiring somebody for the other position that had been left in the budget?
No, this would be a new position.
Oh, it'd be a new position created
But we have no job description.
with no job description?
Right.
Okay.
So there's a motion on the floor. Is there discussion?
Yes, just a quick question. So that job description, is it going to be that of the previous administrative aides? Or will there be less?
That was not discussed at our meeting.
But you guys did meet on this issue, did you not?
Correct, and we could not come to an agreement, and that's why Mr. Aragona said he's bringing his own recommendation now.
So the
It
concern,
would be the same, pretty much the same.
pretty much the same, because so the concern is this is a taxing endeavor. The longer this waits, it's very taxing on my deputy, on the supervisor's deputy. We're taking minutes and things that, and things aren't getting done as efficiently, I think, as what they could be without this person. And by the way, I want to say, and I didn't get a chance to say it maybe at the meeting before, when Debbie Stoller was our administrator, she did a phenomenal job. She helped immensely. I thought her work product was 100% and great. So, and now we're feeling that even so as, there's no person there. So I appreciate that you're wanting to come to this, to get this together, and you've got an applicant that you feel is good, and let's see where it goes.
And as far as the job description, like Mr. Pearl said, it's going to be very much the same. That's not something we have to submit to HR. In fact, I'm not sure that Mr. Smith actually has the previous job description. I think it was just something we discussed within the meeting.
We approved a job description,
We
correct?
approved
in
the
our
job
meeting?
description. It's in HR.
Whether we approved it or not, do you have it?
They
or
have
no?
it. No, well, no,
Wait,
no.
time out. You need to be
I'm sorry.
acknowledged.
So there's a question over that. At the end of the day, this is something where we have
Your office has it. Sorry.
okay. So at the end of the day, we're looking to fill a position in our office. We had a position, we're looking to have somebody fill this out. We have a number of job tasks that we'd like them to tackle, that Debbie tackled, that are now needing to be dispersed amongst your staff, amongst supervisor staff, amongst other staffs within our township. So whether we have a job description or not, I think is somewhat immaterial. If you'd like one, we can even send you our old one, or I can put together.
I have that one. I know,
You
I know. Just as long as I'm assuming it's going to be somewhat similar, so.
This is something very similar to what I did years ago when we were reducing staff, and my deputy retired, and rather than replace my deputy, I put in an administrative assistant also, and that was Mary Newman, if some of you might recall that.
Nice lady.
So it's very similar.
Nice. Thank you. Mr. Smith might not know that the job description is down there, but it's with Lisa Murray. It was in there. The job description, along with what was posted out there, it's also down in HR. I was very meticulous in making sure everybody had what they needed to have to get this job filled. So now, changing boats in the middle of the stream, so to speak, and I don't have a problem with this applicant. I don't have a problem. But why didn't she make the four to have a second, to have a second interview? I think we're putting the cart way before the horse again, and I think we need to rethink this. I so understand where you guys are at, and that's why I wanted to get a temporary to help you with some of that, so you guys weren't overtaxed. But I think right now, we are just flying by the seat of our pants and doing things very poorly.
Okay.
There's no process, no process.
Thank you. Mr. Keys?
I didn't have my hand up.
Mr. Gilliam?
So, we currently have a position in the budget of administrative aid that makes a certain salary and is part of a non-represented bargaining group. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Can't agree on hiring that person among the four trustees. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then, so we're creating a new position called what?
This is going to be the administrative assistant.
Administrative assistant.
Correct.
We used to have an administrative assistant to the administrative aid who was a part-time, I think part-time in that office, part-time in another office. So that administrative assistant had a job description, is that correct?
She was a clerk, too.
She was a clerk too. Was a clerk too part of a bargaining unit?
Yes.
Okay, so now that position's been removed from the budget, or is it still there?
It's still there.
It's still there. Is it still there as part-time or full-time?
Part-time.
Part-time, okay.
And can I just answer one thing?
Yeah, sure.
The problem with the clerk, too, is that, and what we always had to do, was she had to work out of class if she was going to do minutes. So it'd have to be either a senior staff secretary or higher.
Oh, she had to work out of class because you can't take minutes and be, you need to be part of the non-represented bargaining group, right? To do
No,
the
it's-
job of the
her job
administrative aid?
description
Wait,
did not.
excuse me. Everything has to go through the chair.
Yeah.
I give a lot of leeway with
Sorry.
people
And
interjecting.
I'm sorry.
Right.
Now we're starting to,
Right, but I mean, I'm just seeking answers, Mr. Cannon. I want to know exactly what we're voting on here, so I want to figure out, so, and anybody who answers it, speaking through you, however we want to define it, is okay by me. So was part of this motion to eliminate the administrative aid job?
No, as I said in my description, that's something we can leave open at this point. It's not being filled. We're not using township dollars to go towards an administrative assistant. I have no plan on filling the administrative aid position. That's something we can leave for the future. If this is something that our current applicant may grow into, maybe it's something we eliminate in the future. But for right now, why eliminate if we can leave it there as an option for the future?
So, Mr. Cannon, through you to the maker of the motion, we're really not shrinking the salary. We're just deciding to hire the other spot. Did they make the same salary? Does the administrative assistant make the same salary as a clerk too that you're proposing now? Or are you changing a salary here?
He's not proposing a clerk two. He's proposing a new person at a different salary than the administrative aide.
And obviously, I honestly I'm not sure what a clerk to, the exact range. I just did $10,000 less.
Well, a clerk two can't do that job
Right,
because.
that's why we're not proposing, he's not proposing
Okay.
this. We're
Yeah,
proposing
I-
a non-representative
Okay.
employee, similar to an administrative aide position, that can do the job, but at $10,000 less than the current scale that we set up.
Okay. Mr. Smith, are we going to expect any grievances over that?
No, because basically you're redefining the administrative aide position down to an administrative assistant.
Yet it's not defined, because we don't have a job description.
Well, I believe I heard someone say that it was basically the same job description.
But that doesn't mean we have a job description to look at before we vote.
I understand. But it's not the same as an office clerk, too. That's a very well-defined position in the UAW bargaining group.
Right. Right.
And to answer your question before.
So we're
The
expanding-
top salary for a UAW office clerk, too, is about $42,000.
Okay, so we're expanding the non-represented bargaining group by one position by doing this.
You're expanding the
Just
policy
leaving,
by one position.
but just leaving one vacant. Could that be a subject of grievance?
No.
Okay. We can hire as many administrative people as we want in the non-represented bargaining group without the union saying, no, you don't have to have more clerk twos.
So long as they don't conduct bargaining unit work, yes.
Okay, but we don't have a job description, so we don't know if they're going to be doing any clerk two bargaining unit work.
He just told you they're using the same one.
It's right here, you want to read it?
It's-
I didn't get a description
I'd
of your
like something in
deputy.
writing before I vote on it.
I didn't get one from your deputy either time you hired them.
Yet, I didn't make any changes to that, and when I did, it brought forward a job description, a pay recommendation, a person, I provided their resume, and I provided all of the information that anybody asked me for.
Everything.
You did.
Same thing with your deputy.
Do whatever you want, Mr.
Mr.
Callahan.
Ken.
Okay, well, they get to speak, and then we're going to vote. We have a motion and a support on the floor. Mr. Keys?
Yeah, just very quickly, the reason I'll be voting no on this is it's uncomfortable. At this point, we've spent just under a month going through this process, and Ms. West and I were begging to have quick meetings, and it was the other two trustees that said, we can hold off, we can wait until after the holiday season. And now there's this giant push. We even asked for a temp in the meantime. And so now what we find out when we go to the public meeting of the trustees is that Mr. Aragona has contacted one of the applicants and negotiated with them a lower pay for them to accept the position. It's uncomfortable.
Very.
That's a decision that we should make together. We made it together in the first place. To hear Mr. Smith, I apologize, but I can't believe you would say that you didn't see that job description. You were in the public meeting where I made a motion to update the job description. I had added in there that we wanted Microsoft and Google Suite, if you remember. That was in a public meeting with all four trustees. When we amend a job description, us trustees need to be involved in that, not just coming to the board meeting and say it's probably going to be the same. And by the way, it'll probably be the same, but we've also lowered it by $10,000 just because we want to save some money. And we wanted to get a quick applicant in. This is uncomfortable, so I'll be voting no.
Thank you.
Actually, the question was there a job description on file in Human Resources? There is not one. This board worked with the civil service system, and everything in that process is on file in the Civil Service Department.
So then I want to
Not
correct my
Human
statement. So then you have reviewed the job application, and you were provided a copy at that meeting.
No, I did not review it.
Okay.
Because the board was working with civil service.
Okay, thank you.
And we're two separate departments.
Thank you. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
So right now, we're just lowering the salary. We're not
No,
hiring
creating a
a
new
person.
position.
No, we're creating a new
No,
person.
lowering the salary
new
and
position.
creating a new position.
Non-represented.
Just creating a new position. This
And-
will increase the
But-
trustee's budget.
No.
This will create.
No, it will
It'll
not.
decrease it.
But I thought it was, I'm sorry for
The
asking.
same position is going to be in the budget. There's going to be 3 positions in the budget now.
Right.
Only one will be
It's
filled.
funded.
So it's the new position, I'm just asking for clarification. New position and salary, or just new position?
New position, new salary.
So
Different
it is
salary.
new position and
The new
salary?
position.
Okay, no.
Mr. Keys?
No.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
No.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Just a
Starts-
clarification.
Yes.
I talked to Mary Heinen, and she said that she budgeted $85,000, the same as last year. There's no extra money. If we ever decided to fill the other position, we'd have to come back to the board, which I have no indication now that want to do that.
Thank you.
Great.
Mr. Aragona, 19B.
So we have eliminated the administrative aid
My
position.
second motion is to approve the appointment of Stephanie Middlestead to the position of Administrative Assistant to the trustees with a start date of February 25th, pending successful completion of a pre-employment background check and pre-employment drug screen.
Okay.
Support.
Wait a minute, I'm confused now. Hang on one second, because just for clarification, I'm sure it's in the minutes that I thought you had said this position wouldn't start until April 1st, 2018.
No, that's the legal.
So April 1st, 2018 is when we're opening
Or,
the position.
I'm sorry,
up
19
for.
is what I
That is
thought it
so that
was.
we can start this position within this fiscal year.
Okay, so it was 18, not 19.
Correct.
Okay, all right, then that's fine. All right,
Mr. Gilliam?
I'm sorry, who?
Yeah.
Who? Who is this person?
We have no-
What do we know about her? I have not seen any information. I've not seen any resume. I've not seen, not only do I not have a job description, I don't have a clear picture as to what is or is not in the budget. And it's just a name at this point. What are the qualifications? What is being presented to the board that you're asking me to vote on?
She has been active in the community in a number of ways. Her husband actually is an employee of the township. As far as the budget, we were just informed that Mrs. Hine indicated there was $80-some thousand for this person. She will now be paid $53,000, so there will be at least a $30,000 annual savings with the position. And I think those were the questions you asked.
But it was also stated that that position of administrative aid was not being eliminated.
It's not going to
And
be
if it's
filled.
money's being pulled from the trustee budget, then it is being eliminated. So that was a part of the motion that we now find is not correct.
That's correct.
I have two other people that work in my office. When I first took this position, I had three other people. I don't have that third position filled simply because of constraints, financial constraints. I don't plan to fill that position. It's still there. That position is still there. If we ever came into money and everybody wanted to start hiring again, we could fill that position, same as the trustees. You could start filling, you have now a part-time and a full-time position that's technically in your department, but it's not being filled. One position is being filled, other than the four trustees.
There's no backup and no information on a person you're asking me to vote to hire tonight.
Well, the trustees all know of her. They had her application. They, in fact, some of them see her socially, see her out at events. She worked for the chamber for a time.
Okay, I think I know who she is, but
We all interviewed her
One interview.
at an interview, so
Not-
public
The
interview.
four trustees have interviewed.
No, not a public, I'm sorry, may I, Mr. Can? Not a public interview. It was
Not
all
my
four
employee.
worked together.
Go for
It was 2 and 2.
Correct.
And two of you are in
Correct.
favor of her. And I mean, I could very well be in favor of her. And this has nothing to do with Stephanie. It's just that she didn't even make it to the second round of interviews for what we were doing. My problem with this whole thing, too, is when we went ahead and sent out the letters to the other 71 people, I was calling all these people. I was setting up as the lead trustee, I was setting up the appointments. I did all of that. I went through every single application. Then, when we send out the letters to the people saying you didn't get the position, I started getting a lot of phone calls. Why are they saying I don't have the minimum qualifications? I have this, I have that, I have this. One of them was that we wanted a bachelor's degree. Stephanie does not have that. So now we're not only lowering the whole whatever, but we've changed it. And how am I to defend what I was saying to these people before? This is just not right. This is a shoddy process. It shouldn't be done this way. You know it's going to be a 4-3 vote. You know what's going to be, but you're bringing in somebody who right off the bat doesn't even feel like she's got the support from the board. I will do everything in my power to make this young lady feel very comfortable and very wanted in this position, but this is not the right way to do it.
Thank you, Mr. Keys.
Yes, thank you, Ms. West, for summarizing that, because I think we're really setting this employee up at a disadvantage.
Yes.
On day one, we can't hand them a job description that the whole board has approved or that the trustees have even approved. We have now even gone as far to say, because you didn't meet the requirements, we've decided $10,000 is a random number that we feel appropriate to lower the salary to. To me, this is not giving this employee the tools necessary to have a successful career here. And make no mistake about it, I have no issues with the individual applicant. We, Ms. West and I, even in our meeting, asked to do a second interview with both applicants that were left, because we wanted, and we felt it was important that these people go through public interviews. These are people that are going to speak on our behalf in public.
Correct.
This candidate has not gone through that process like the other 4 candidates that we chose have. And so all we asked for was more time to say we want a public interview. If you want to hire a temp, we've made that recommendation. Let's do it. But let's work together on this. Don't jam it down the throats of the trustees and set this employee up to fail. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
No.
Mr. Keys?
No.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
No.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Thank you. Item 20, discussion regarding the findings of the general investigation from Riemann. Mr. Dolan?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you've all received a copy of the report from Mr. Kowalski. This board swiftly, after information was made available to us, following the testimony of Mr. Modi and Mr. Santia, acted to start a process that culminated in retaining a highly skilled professional outside investigator to determine whether, after the investigation, there was evidence that there may have been financial harm to the township based on the actions potentially of either Mr. Modi or Mr. Santia. We retained the firm of Riemann Robeson, and the lead individual who headed the investigation was William Kowalski, who has a Juris Doctorate, that's a law degree, and who also had a lengthy career as a Federal Bureau of Investigation agent with senior positions within the FBI. He commenced an investigation. He made contact with the FBI to make sure that the nature of the investigation would not be in conflict with any continuing investigations that they had. He was received assurances from them that he could complete his investigation. He interviewed some employees within the township. He also reviewed records within the township and interviewed persons outside the township. Essentially, what he did is he looked at the mechanizations we have within the township with respect to how funds are received and processed, and the extent to which any department head, such as Mr. Santia, would have the ability to get control of funds or to redirect funds within the township. He found that we have an extremely strong process within the township with the way that requisitions for payment are made and transactions involving the disbursement of funds occurs. He found that there was no evidence that there was any type of loss to the township based on what I'll call the mishandling or misappropriation of funds on an internal basis.
Excuse me one second, Mr. Dolan. Are you communicating outside the board chambers?
No, I'm going through my email to try to pull up the report so I have it on my phone. Is that an issue?
The next thing that he did is he
No, I have it online. I have it highlighted.
he was furnished copies that we had assembled of all of the previous actions undertaken by the planning commissions and ZBA with respect to things like special land use, site plan approval, and zoning board of appeals activities, so that he could make some selective investigations to try to determine whether there may have been any contact between Mr. Santia and those persons who were coming before the board, where he might be trying to market himself through his company, which was Traffic Engineering Consultants. And it was determined, based on his selective investigation there, that there was no evidence that that sort of activity had occurred. He ultimately completed a conclusion, and it's fairly short. For the record, I'll read it into the record, and it's my understanding that it likely is the desire that this entire document will be made public and available by the board, but that would be action that you can take on this. The conclusion states, no evidence or information was developed during this review which would indicate Santia further harmed the Charter Township of Clinton, notwithstanding the reputational damage due to his and Reynolds' known involvement with Mr. Modi. While a full financial review of vendor invoices was not conducted, the internal controls of the Department of Planning and Community Development, most specifically detailed board review of applications and any recommendations made by the Department of Planning of Community Development, acted as an effective brake on any exertion of authority by someone in Santia's position, and thereby limited any possible self-enrichment opportunities. It is the opinion of this investigator these controls remain effective, and absent the conflict of interest discussed above, no additional issues were discovered. And when they refer to conflict of interest, it was the fact that Mr. Santia did operate a company called TEC that was the acronym for it, and I believe it stood for Transportation Engineering Services. So at this point, based on the investigation that he did and the contacts he made, there's no evidence of any direct financial harm that the township sustained. Now, I do want to add that you may recall back when this occurred, we had made some inquiry with Giffords Webster. We were interested in gaining information with regard to the nature and scope of the activities of Mr. Modi and TEC through Giffords Webster. At that time, we didn't get any specifics with regard to the actual estimated dollar amount of transactions that they were involved in. Recently, on January 18th, in the litigation that was filed by Giffords Webster, they filed a motion, and they attached to their motion various exhibits that did give us some additional information. This information is a matter of public record because it's filed in the Oakland County Circuit Court. We picked it up because it's all in digital format and posted on the website that the court maintains, where you can search court files. And what we did find out is that the transactions, as claimed by Giffords in their lawsuit, in total were $482,180 that TEC had billed through Giffords Webster. They claimed that they had written off $204,432 of that dollars of that amount, meaning that Giffords didn't in turn rebill that amount and collect it from a client of theirs, which leaves approximately $278,000 that it appears some client somewhere paid for. Now, the body of the affidavit and exhibits and the deposition of Mr. Modi, which was attached, which I reviewed, did not reflect that any of those charges involved activity with the township. It was other entities than the township. But we do have some idea now, based on this filing, that of the scope of the charges that were passed along by TEC and Mr. Modi and Mr. Santia. Basically, with that being said, that's the update that I have. You've all had the document, you've had an opportunity to review the document, and I'm prepared to address any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you. I would recommend to the board that we immediately put this on our webpage, so anyone who cares to take a look at it has that opportunity.
Support.
I mean, that'll be part of the overall, I think that we should.
Mr. Cannon,
Mrs.
just,
Meltzer?
thank you, Mr. Cannon. Just for clarification, Mr. Dolan, when you gave the acronym definition, you said Transportation Engineering Services. I did go online and I looked it up. I think it's Traffic Engineering
Well,
Consultants.
okay, then that would be the correct name.
Just for clarification, and it does come up as the address in Clinton Township. So I'm almost 100% certain that TEC stands for Traffic Engineering Consultants.
Okay, so my recommendation would be to receive and file and to put this on this week for anyone in the community or anywhere to take a look at if they choose. And if there's support, we can discuss it.
I support it.
Okay, so supported by Mr. Keys.
Okay. Well, I think Ms. Meltzer had raised her hand prior to.
I just because I wanted to clarify the definition that Mr. Dolan had stated, and he concurred that it was, we're fine.
Okay.
It's Traffic Engineering Consultants.
So this issue came to the board because we sort of did internal looks and said, we don't think any money or any township money is missing, but we also concluded that we had a responsibility to go outside, hire an outside investigator to look at this. We asked Mr. Dolan to come with 3 people. He came with those 3 people. We made the decision to hire this particular company. He's a former FBI agent. I read the report, and I think what it revealed is the weaknesses that we had from the beginning of this process, and that is that we only have the ability at this point to look at only one side, right? We can only look at it from the standpoint of, is any money missing? Well, so that's a testament to, I think, the accounting department, my predecessor and his staff, and now the treasurer staff. There's no money missing, and some internal controls. I think that's good. But I think there was a larger issue here that the report also speaks to. The report speaks to the fact that the township, the main conclusion, the one conclusion, we haven't found any evidence of misappropriation of funds. We haven't had any, specific, people haven't told us that there's been any specific wrongdoing, but the township needs a comprehensive ethics ordinance.
Yeah, we all agree.
We voted earlier today to just apply it to, of course, the, elected and appointed officials. But so that was the conclusion of this report. But the weakness is we only have the ability to look at actually one side of it. We said, actually, and I said at the time, we need those invoices. We need to know who he was billing. Because here's the other issue here. This board makes recommendations based upon the recommendations of the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is staffed by the Planning Director. The Planning Director sits there with those folks. Anybody who wants to do any type of development starts upstairs at the Planning Department. They go on up there to Carlo's office and now Bruce's office, and they say, hey, we want to do this project and we want to bring it forward. The issue that we don't know about yet, because we don't have those invoices, is were any of the recommendations brought to the board based upon a sort of side deal that we weren't aware of? The side deal being,
You can have the floor next.
Okay, yeah, you recommend me for approval to the Planning Commission and to the Board of Trustees, and I'll hire your company for a development in another community. That's the part that we don't know yet, right?
No,
That's the part we're not able to look at.
Well, they did look in, he did look into that selectively. He had a list, and attached to the report
There's
was
a
all of
long
those
list.
identified transactions that he got, which was quite a large number. Now, what he did is he didn't go through every single one. He tried to do sort of what I'll call a random selection of different transactions, speaking to people, and he interviewed those people who came, for example, before the Planning Commission, asked them whether or not they knew Santia, whether or not he had approached them to hire, whether they knew of his company, whether there had been any discussion about his company being available for service and so on. And of the people he interviewed, he did not find that within that context of the review that he did.
So, but we don't know who he interviewed, is that correct?
Right, and.
The people outside of the township that he interviewed did not want to
Well,
reveal the.
correct, that is correct. He did not.
They all basically said to the investigator, hey, you know what, we'll talk to you, but we don't really want you using our name publicly.
More or
Is
less,
that-
yes, that's a good
Okay.
way to put it.
So then it occurred to me, one, we need those invoices from Giffords. You're saying, I think, Mr. Dolan, of what you're saying, we now have some information that's now become public as a part of the lawsuit.
Correct.
And the size of, so I was jotting down the numbers quickly, but Giffords Webster is saying that Paul Modi, who is a principal at Giffords Webster, was either sending false invoices or inflated invoices to traffic consulting engineering or traffic engineering consultants.
Well, actually, what was happening is Traffic Engineering Consultants was submitting invoices that may have been totally fraudulent or at least in part inflated, and that money was then flowing through TEC back to Modi.
So fraudulently or inflated to the tune of $482,000 of money that they got out of Giffords Webster based upon this fraud.
That's what's claimed in the affidavits that are attached to the motion that was filed on January 18th.
Okay.
The $482,000 figure comes from the Giffords Webster side of that lawsuit, attached to the affidavit of Mr. Klein, who's one of the principals at Giffords Webster.
What do you have on this that you could provide to the board?
Well, basically, what I've got is I've got a copy of the deposition of Mr. Modi. Now, to put this all in context of what we can and can't do, consider this. Giffords Webster filed a lawsuit. They have the orders and powers of the court and the legal process to gain information. So because they're in a litigation setting, they can subpoena Mr. Modi and bring him in for deposition, which he did appear and his deposition was taken. I've got a copy of that. Throughout substantial portions of that deposition, though, Mr. Modi invoked the Fifth Amendment. So he wasn't responsive to a lot of questions. Some he was, some he wasn't. But the point is that, you know, we have to be mindful of whatever course of action we choose to take or not take, of what our limitations are here at the township, because we don't have the benefit of a subpoena power in the context of litigation. You know, all we can do is try to utilize whatever more limited powers we have as a township board, you know, potentially to seek assistance from the court if we're able to, and so on. But
So we don't have subpoena power and we're only looking at, in this investigation that's before us, we're really only looking at one side of it. And so what we need to do is look at the other side of it. The Giffords-Webster depositions of Paul Modi are giving us somewhat of a look into that. And you're going to get that out to the board?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we
Okay.
know now, one of our great concerns was just, what are we talking about? Is this a relatively limited number of transactions? Is it a small amount of money? We know obviously.
We now know it's a lot. It was a big amount of money.
$482,000.
That's a big amount of money. Okay, so the other thing is,
It's claimed by,
we don't have subpoena power, but we do have FOIA. Because a lot of this is public information, because I suspect that a lot of this work that was probably being done in other communities is, it was actually done for public entities, so we have FOIA ability. So could we FOIA to say, hey, give us any records that you may have on TEC?
I think what we can do is, some of this involves the County Public Works Office. And I know that their attorney, Joseph Viviano, would cooperate with us. And I'm suspecting that the Public Works Commissioner, Candace Miller, would too. So in terms of, if we need copies of invoices that Giffords had submitted, I'm thinking that they would probably voluntarily turn those over to us, but obviously they're public records and they are subject to FOIA.
So we could send a FOIA to communities where we know that there's been a lot of development, figure out if TEC was doing any work for those developers, and then we could cross-reference to see if any of them were on this list that was provided to the investigator, to kind of cross-reference to say, hey, do we have any work happening here at the same time? To see if any of those recommendations that came to the Planning Commission or the board were based upon some type of side agreement that we weren't aware of. I mean, we didn't even know we had a side company, so.
I mean, these are public entities and they are, if you make a request for documents, for example, if a traffic study was done and submitted as part of, say, a site plan or some plat development in another community, that is a public document. So that document would be required to be furnished responsive to a Freedom of Information Act request.
All right, so I make a motion to amend the motion that's currently on the floor to send FOIAs out to Macomb County, Chesterfield, Macomb, and Shelby and Washington Townships for any documents that would have been work product provided by TEC.
Support.
Or traffic engineering consultants.
Well, before, don't you want to, you don't have any time frame on that, though?
Right away.
And the cost?
Support.
Let's vote on the first motion first.
Okay, but you're going to entertain the second motion then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just on the
wait,
first
it's already-
motion.
I'll withdraw. I'll withdraw, just as long as I get it on the floor and we can vote on it, so that way.
Well, that's.
Excuse me. Thank you.
I
different than
always
what I
have to do it in an amendment because I don't know if you're saying, okay, no, we're moving on, so, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that's germane
why
to
you're
what we're
laughing.
talking
That's
about.
exactly what
Okay.
happens.
Could-
All right.
I have a question about the first motion.
Yes, please.
Just to note, I read the whole report too, Mr. Gilliam, and, I mean, he did indicate a lot of firms he circled that he had talked to, and his study indicated that he didn't find anything that was consistent with Mr. Santia doing any work in Clinton Township. I had no idea that he had this firm, and I've worked with him on planning, and zoning for years. And I've never seen him come before us at a meeting and say, you should use, you should pass this or whatever. It was, the recommendation was probably most times through the assistant planning director on recommendations for planning and zoning. But it doesn't condone what he did. And I have no problem with your second motion for coming. But I also want to indicate that the recommendation definitely said to establish an ethics policy, but the second line said such a policy would be in addition to those agreed upon in the collective bargaining documents. So I agree with this report. I'm not happy with what happened, and I think I have no problem with continuing investigating.
Mr. Cannon, I just have a question. Why wasn't this part of this investigator's process to FOIA this? I mean, why are we doing this now after we're going to be paying?
I just thought about it.
Well, I know, but I'm saying,
It just
why
came
didn't
to
the reporter,
light.
why didn't the
I can't help
investigator
the
think
To
of
light
that?
now,
No,
today.
no, no, no. I'm saying, why wouldn't, it seems to me this is, what an investigator would do.
Correct.
That's not what we
Probably
asked them to
saving
do.
money over the fact that we're doing.
We're doing it
Well,
instead of him.
I'm saying that we're paying for something, and now, there's more opportunity out there to verify information, and now we have to do it.
Right.
We already paid him to do this, did we not?
Right. I'm with you.
Dolan?
I mean,
Yeah,
Can't we go back and tell him
my
to
suggestion
include
is let's
that?
get past this first motion, then we can start talking about
Could
that.
somebody please read the motion that's on the floor?
Put it on the webpage and receive and file.
Okay,
If you
thank
want
you.
anything else,
Thank you.
that'll be part of another motion.
No, I was in the
Robert?
bathroom.
Bob Hogan, 36755 Bar Street, Clinton Township. Paul Gilliam mentioned the name or the title Planning Director a couple of times in the Ethics Committee, or Ethics coming up. The question is the Planning Director covered by a union or not?
The answer is yes, and let me read something to you that I think will shed some light. It's part of their contract. Mr. Santia was president of the union that signed this contract, and this is quoted in the report. In recognition that a conflict of interest may arise, it is mutually agreed that an employee covered by this agreement shall not engage directly or indirectly in any work as an employee, independent contractor, for himself or any other person when such work is related to any matter pertaining to the Charter Township of Clinton, which is inspected by the Charter Township of Clinton. So in other words, he signed the contract that ethics policy was part of, and obviously violated it.
Yes,
Can
but they knew,
I take a look at that?
You don't have that?
Well, not in front of me.
but the new ethics policy that's coming out that was shelved for the moment, he'd be excluded from it. That position would be excluded from the new ethics policy that you,
Unless his union agreed to the new policy that we're trying to develop.
unless they agreed to it, but otherwise it'd be.
But that's already in their policy. That's already part of their contract. That ethics portion is part of that union's contract.
It is?
It is.
Okay, thank you.
So the point is that having an ethics policy doesn't, safeguard us from this type of
No,
activity.
certainly not. I mean, did you have the floor, or did you give it up?
I gave it up for now.
Mr. Keese?
Yeah, just as a point of clarification, you're right. But again, when we proposed our version of the ethics policy, we're not just talking about throwing a document or a sentence in a contract that we know employees don't read when they get here as an employee. I mean, no one sits here and reads the entire contract word for word and memorizes it. I know I work for a government entity and I haven't.
But you'd be surprised, though.
Well, maybe some have the time to do that.
They probably read it, more probably read it,
But the
maybe not
second thing
memorized it.
The second thing is we're talking about training on that ethics policy too. So we're talking about more than just putting a sentence in a contract. We're saying, no, we're going to engage with you. We're going to give you the tools as an employee to make the right decisions. I just want to make that clarification and why an ethics policy is important.
Oh, nobody's disputing
Yeah,
that. We're going to
no,
have
yeah.
one, and that we need one.
Okay.
Okay.
If I may, just on this language here, shall not engage directly or indirectly in any work as an employee, independent contractor for himself or any other person when such work is related to any matter pertaining to the Charter Township of Clinton. So in any manner pertaining is kind of, I think, the thing that Carlo may have violated, because if he was doing work for the same developer in another community that was also asking for approval in the township, that's not covered under the second stanza, which is inspected by the Charter Township of Clinton, because that work's not inspected by us. It was work he was doing. It was cutting a side deal, basically, for work. And so the only thing would be to any matter pertaining to, and that is kind of clear as mud. I mean, you know, this doesn't come out and say, hey, you can't have a side hustle and, you know, be out there, you know, asking people to hire you while you're working with them in the township.
I think that more relates.
It just says in
to,
any manner pertaining
inspectors
to, so yeah,
that are-
so yeah, it's covered, but
It is covered.
not clear.
A lot of that has to do with inspectors, that if you had an electrical inspector that was doing work as a contractor, he can't do it in this community.
Correct, right. But
Okay,
that
so-
doesn't speak to, you know, what is my side business doing with the same people that I'm doing business with in the township?
We're going to take a roll call with that first motion, then Mr. Gilliam will have the floor to make his motion.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melser, yes, motion passes.
Mr. Gilliam?
I make a motion that we direct the attorney to submit FOIA request for any work that may be on file that is work product of Traffic Engineering Consultants, Inc., or TEC, Inc., and that these documents would likely be in relation to site plan developments or development projects in the form of traffic studies, but maybe other work.
Can you amend that to include Giffel Webster? Because they may be included in Giffel Webster invoices.
Yeah, but, sure,
Include also Giffel.
sure.
I'll support.
And in terms of a time period, because Mr. Dolan brought that up, so let's, I mean, you know, what's the fair amount of time to go back here? I'm thinking, you know, 2010 to 2018?
5 years.
When was
Five?
the company established?
2002.
Well, go from there.
Let me just add something, if I may, and I don't mean.
By all means,
Mr.
help
Chairman, but
help me out here.
I'm sidebarring a little bit with Ms. Bednar. The concern I have on that is you've named a number of communities. You're now at an 8-year level. And just for us to go back and assemble the documents that we did as part of this process was quite time-consuming. So if you're talking about that many communities in an 8-year level, it's potentially going to be pretty expensive. What you might consider doing is starting out with a couple communities and establishing a time frame. Let's see what we get and how much it costs, rather than going immediately with all the communities without having some idea as to what we're going to run into.
To go for the low-hanging fruit first.
Well, it's not, I mean, I don't know which community would be the best community to start with. I think
Wasn't the
we're-
County Drain Commission's office the?
Well, yeah, I
Well,
mean,
some
but
of it, we know that, like Macomb County, we can request from them, and I think they'll
Jackson,
furnish it, but
we just paid over $9,000 for a report that doesn't tell us much other than we need an ethics ordinance, and that there was no money missing, but we already knew that. So I think this is money that I think we have to spend at this point for not having been aware that all of this was going on all of these years as part of a fraud conspiracy that people are now in prison for, and we now find out our engineering firm of record that this rises to the level of $482,000. I think spending some money here is probably the right thing to do.
Are you putting a cap on it?
Well, let's explore how much it costs first. So, yeah, so we can submit the FOIAs. They have to send us back a document as to what the costs are going to be. Is that correct? Isn't that the way the process works?
Yeah, so we could evaluate that cost at the time and then decide if we want to move
So
forward on paying.
submit the FOIAs and bring the cost back.
okay, I do want to clarify, Ms. Bednar just mentioned something to me. For example, Giffords Webster is the consultant who is the primary engineer on behalf of Washington Township.
Right, that's what
So if
we
we ask
start.
for copies of their invoices, you're going to get every invoice that they submit on a monthly basis for 8 years.
So you just want the invoices that were from Giffords that relate to the
TEC.
other company?
Wait, I'm not talking about just invoices here. I'm talking about work product so documents that may have been submitted as a traffic study as part of a development project. That's what I think
understand
makes
what you're
sense.
asking,
That's-
Paul. You
okay.
want when you say work stuff, work product, what you're really talking about is documents
Okay.
that relate, that speak of or are directed to or from traffic engineering consultants.
Right.
Point of information.
Yes.
I'd just like to, Mr. Gilham, sorry, is your motion to go back to 2010 or 2002? At this point, I'd be willing to support either, seeing that we're going to be going and getting information.
Let's figure it out for 2010. I think 2002 is like,
Okay, then I'll support that motion.
and I would include, just to be official, the communities that I mentioned and I'm including in the motion are Macomb County Public Works Office, Chesterfield, Macomb, Shelby, and Washington Townships.
Okay.
I,
Is that
yeah.
your support?
It's 5 communities, 5 entities.
I don't know if being around here, I think that we should look at actually the counties of, like Oakland, St. Clair, and maybe even Wayne. Carlo is a bright guy. I don't see that he's going to be doing any of that so close to home personally. If there is, TEC is out there, it's going to be for a much wider.
So,
So I think it's the counties we need.
well, I think the 482,000 you're saying is related to the county?
Right.
Oakland.
Macomb County.
I know, but
County?
I think you were going to.
Let's check there first.
Yeah.
Paul's right.
So, yeah, so it doesn't hurt to submit the FOIAs.
Right.
It does not hurt to, after submitted, bring the bills back to us
Right.
so we can approve them for payment, and then that makes the FOIA move forward, does it not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if we want to pay it.
Okay,
But
roll
we'll know
call.
ahead of time.
We have a motion and a support.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. Item
Should have been investigated.
21 has been deleted. Item 22, approval of appointment to senior staff secretary position, clerk's office.
Dear members of the board, the clerk's office is recommending the appointment of Mr. Colin Hanzinski to the position of senior staff secretary. This appointment constitutes a promotion to a higher classification within the department. This is a budgeted position. Mr. Hanzinski's starting salary will be $39,216 upon Township Board approval. His appointment date will be effective January 29th, 2019. Thank you for consideration of this matter. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources Director.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Supported by Mrs. West. Roll call, please.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Item 23, approval of appointment to appraiser 1 position in the assessing department.
Dear members of the board, the assessing department is recommending the appointment of Ms. Jessica Deaton Holden to the position of appraiser 1. This appointment constitutes a promotion to a higher classification within the department. Based on interviews, the assessing department is confident that Ms. Deaton Holden is well qualified for the position. Her starting salary will be $51,273 upon Township Board approval. Her appointment date will be effective January 29th, 2019. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Sincerely, William Smith, Human Resources Director.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Pearl. Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Melter, yes. Motion passes.
Item 24, discussion regarding the deferment of township payments for furloughed or unpaid federal government employees.
I don't have a letter,
We had a phone call. Mrs. Bednar approached me last week, and I put a policy into place for the board to either accept or reject, but it was in place during the time period up and from when she talked to me till now. Only one person has applied for a deferment in their payment, but right now, someone still could because we had a 60-day time period afterwards, and who knows what's going to happen next. So if the board would like to either weigh in or against what I put into place, that would be just fine.
I think we should continue with it.
Make
a motion?
You go ahead and make a
Support.
motion.
To continue with.
Thank you. So right now, some folks are in the middle of their 60-day window without penalty. Is there a support?
Support.
Thank you. Roll call,
Mr.
please.
If I can speak on that.
Yes.
Just, all right, so if the federal government does close down on the 15th again, will we need to extend this after that
Start
60
it all
days or
over
just
again.
wait? Okay,
Because the people will
This is
stop
just for
receiving
60.
paychecks at that time.
okay, very good. So this is only going to go for 60 days
After they start receiving their paychecks.
from the start, okay.
Roll call?
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Ms. Bednar. It was nice to be able to communicate with you on this. I had 2 residents that had reached out to me. They were not affected, but they were concerned about the community and wanted to know what we were doing. So I appreciate the diligence in getting this done quickly. And I also just want to take a moment to thank the businesses of Macomb County. What we saw online was that many businesses went out of their way to help try to accommodate for these people that were not getting paid, some of them who were forced to go to work without pay. And so just a couple, for example, we had Freestar Financial, who is offering free financial advisement and discounted loans, actually, so that way some of these bills could get paid.
That's a credit union, right?
Yes, it's a credit union on Gratiot. We also had in Mount Clemens a yoga studio that offered free yoga to anybody that was affected by the shutdown. And so I think those are just some examples, including all the restaurants that gave discounts and free food. And so just as a point of privilege, I want to thank the community, and I want to thank Ms. Bednar for working on this.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Argona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion.
Thank you. And item 25, bid award, Little Millar Pump Station improvements.
Dear board members, on January 29, 2019, the Charter Township of Clinton's Clerk's Office received a total of 4 bids and processed a total of 3 responsive bids from pre-qualified bidders for the above-referenced project. Our office checked the tabulation of the bids submitted, and the low bidder is Lawrence M. Clark, Inc. of Belleville, Michigan, in the amount of $196,995. A copy of the final bid tabulations are attached with this letter. The project consists of the relocation of a pump station control panel and installation of new electrical conduit along the South Millar Road and East Utica Road right-of-ways. As a condition of the bid requirements, prospective bidders were required to be pre-qualified in pump station rehabilitation and horizontal directional drilling for water main or low-pressure sewers prior to the bid opening. Lawrence M. Clark, Inc. provided the necessary pre-qualification information to be considered for bid award. This project is receiving a total of $173,274 in federal funds from the FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. The as-bid construction amount is over the originally budgeted grant amount for the construction-related work. Based on discussions with the Department of Public Services, water and sewer funds are available for the cost difference. AEW has been in discussion with the FEMA grant administrators to obtain additional grant funds to cover these additional costs. We are also requesting grant assistance for the added security light, which is an additional $4,000. This is a project that is eligible to receive additional grant funds as they become available. Based upon the bids submitted and conditions noted above, we recommend that the Little Millar Pump Station improvements be awarded to Lawrence M. Clark, Inc., located at 50850 Bemis Road, Belleville, Michigan, 48111, in the amount of $200,995. Sincerely, Scott Chabot, Senior Project Engineer.
Are there any comments or questions of board members? Community? The floor is open for a motion.
So move to approve.
Support.
Thank you.
Real quick. I was just wondering whether Scott or Mary wants to kind of talk about the bid process and why we came to the decision that we did.
Well, very quickly, as far as one of the bidders, is that what you're asking about?
Yes.
Is one of the bidders did not submit a pre-qualification.
Okay.
And that is a requirement. So what we do is at that point is we do not open the bid, so we don't, because they didn't meet the qualification. I do want to actually add one thing. This is a result of the August 2014 flood. And when we were declared, I guess, a natural disaster, and that's why this grant money, this mitigation money became available. So you can see we're, trying to get it, and we are, and, but it's going to be, by the time we're done, it's going to be about 5 years later. But that's an example of, because of that catastrophe, we were able to get this money.
Thanks for the explanation.
Paul Brower was instrumental in helping with that?
Yes, he was.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion passes.
Approval of the bills?
So moved.
Oh, we didn't.
I'm sorry.
We have the minutes, and
Approval of the minutes of the January 14th regular township board meeting.
Mr. Cannon, I just want a correction on page 5. That would be 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th paragraph down. It states, Ms. Meltzer agreed with Mr. Gilliam that sidewalks can be waived on the interior of gated area, but they should not be waived along Millar. Actually, I said they should be waived along Millar.
Okay.
Yeah,
support.
so there's, the not should not be in there.
I'll support.
Moved and supported with that change. Roll call, please.
I'm sorry, who supported, Keys made the, supported it?
We were thinking you were.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you made the motion.
Oh,
Did you
okay.
make the change?
I'll make
I
the,
apologize.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Approval of the bills.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call,
Nobody
please.
wants to ever approve the bills, I don't know why.
Well,
We have to approve the bills.
And I
people.
would do it, but since I, submit
always
the bills, I've always feel like it's not
hesitation.
my place to, make that motion. I'd be happy to make it, but.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes. Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Motion passes.
There are no public comments this evening, so a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Keys?
Yes.
Mrs. West?
Yes.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Aragona?
Yes.
Mr. Gilliam?
Yes.
Mrs. Meltzer, yes, motion
Thank you.
passes.
Meeting adjourned.